2024. First thing I'd like to do is for all of us to stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Chairman Ernst,
Present.
Vice Chair McDermott is excused. Commissioner Each,
Yeah.
Commissioner Blamire,
Present.
Commissioner Seyfried,
Present.
Commissioner Clark,
We hope on the way.
we hope on the way. Commissioner Bob is excused as well, and Commissioner Besson.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, on the agenda that was posted to the public and the approval of minutes, it said June, approval of June 7th, and it should have said June 4th. So I changed that, and when this gets posted, it will say June 4th. In addition to that, in the minutes from May 7th, on item PC 1786, although I noted that Commissioner McDermott had recused himself when indicating the vote, instead of putting 6-0, I put 7-0. So I should have, I changed that to 6. And lastly, under new business, item 7B3, there was a correction to say that instead of the 4 branches of the military, there are 5 branches of the military.
Very
And
good.
that's it.
Cynthia, you have me also, would you change that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, you need to turn
On
on your mic.
June, on June the 4th, this is the June the 4th, I was out of town. You have me present. I was excused on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, you did excuse me?
yes.
Yeah, okay,
I
okay.
have you as excused.
Okay,
It should
thank
say
you.
excused. Sorry if it doesn't.
Also, could you make a note, Mr. Clark has joined us. We now have
Yes, and Mr.
six
Clark,
members of the commission tonight.
709.
Mr.
Okay.
Clark, how are
Good
you?
evening, Mr. Clark.
Good to see you.
Clark.
Anything else on that? I'll go ahead and, if everybody's made note of the changes on the minutes, there's a motion to approve the minutes of June 4th. Do I hear a motion to approve minutes of June 4th? Mr.
So
Besson?
moved.
Mr. Besson indicated first. He moved for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Seyfried. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item moves. And then on the minutes that need to be approved for May 7th, there's a motion to approve the minutes of May 7th.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Seyfried. Need a second on that
Second.
motion. Seconded by Mrs. Blumer. Very good. All in favor of moving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Moved unanimously. Minutes have been approved for both meetings. Then I see now, you've stated that there will be a planning commission meeting on August 6th, 2024. Is that still slated for that date? No.
Unless the commission decides otherwise,
All right.
sir.
So that is a question before you, commissioners, if you want to have a meeting on August 6th, you know that is generally the break for city council,
Right.
and if you will be taking a break for August yourselves.
Do you have items?
I do not have items currently for that date.
Well, anyone have an objection if we decide to go ahead and skip August 2nd, or we could just, 6th rather?
No objection.
If there's no pending issues, I'd have no objection.
Okay. Um,
Really, you guys really want to cancel that?
Hmm?
No, I have no
All
objection.
right. So then I think we're all in agreement. We'll go ahead and not plan on the August 6th meeting. And so that'll look at September for the next meeting. And I'm pretty sure we'll have some items then, because I know there's some things in the pipeline that will most certainly have to be addressed at that time.
Sorry.
Continued public hearings. Do we have any continued public hearings?
Mr. Chair, hold on one second.
Hold on one second, I'm sorry. So in that case, since we're not going to have an August meeting, just so the public is aware, the next meeting is then slated for September 3rd.
September 3rd.
Which is the
I'm going to
day
just,
after
Yes.
Is that a
Labor Day.
primary? Yeah.
that's something you may want to consider because it's the day right after Labor Day.
Is there a primary election
No,
Prior
the
to
primary is
November?
August,
August.
August?
It's
August
in
20th.
August, but it is after a major holiday, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Um,
We have had meetings on the Thursdays, but it's up to you.
If there's no objection, we could move that meeting for the September 3rd to, that
Would
would
be the
become
5th.
September 5th.
Yeah, I would, I can put it for the 5th and double check that this room is available on
All
that
right.
day, because normally when we've had a special meeting and we've changed the date, it was usually the week after on the Thursday, but
Right.
I will confirm that tomorrow and send out notification to you all.
Thank you.
Okay, Thank you. Everybody fine with that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
I
sure,
don't hear
that
any
works.
objections, very good.
Thank you.
So, again, any continued public hearings at all? Staff? None?
No, sir.
All right, very good. So now we're going to move into the public hearing portion of the meeting, and I'm going to give the floor to our counsel, Mr. Held. Before he begins, I want to state that we have 3 items tonight that are quasi-judicial. Mr. Held is going to read into the record the items that need to be understood by everyone that wants to speak on those items. Each item will allow the public 2 minutes apiece, so that you know, any one of the 3 items, the petitioners will have their time to make the presentation, but then the general public will have 2 minutes apiece per item to air their testimony or make a comment on the issue. And then the petitioner then has a right to rebuttal, and he'll have a chance to do a rebuttal after the public hearing is closed. And then the normal procedure after that is that the commission will, the meeting will then be, the item will then be discussed among the panel, the commission, and then we will render a vote to either deny or accept the proposal. So at this time, Mr. Held, if you could, sir, Chair recognizes you, and if you could go ahead.
That was a
and
good summary, though.
set up. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so this is a summary of quasi-judicial procedures which apply to applications on specific parcels of land, like the conditional use requests on tonight's agenda. The commission will sit like a court, hence the term quasi-judicial, reviewing the facts presented at the hearing, applying the adopted rules as explained by staff in the staff report and verbally. Commission members can make site visits but must disclose the evidence upon which they intend to rely from that visit. Commission members will disclose at the beginning of each hearing whether they have had communications with individuals on behalf of the applicant or otherwise, including who the communication was with and what the topic of discussion was. All persons intending to speak to the commission will be sworn by the clerk. The staff will then make a presentation, and the commission may ask questions of staff. The applicant will make a presentation, including expert witnesses, if any, and the commission may ask questions of them. When the public hearing is open, the public can make comments on the application limited to 2 minutes each. Citizen testimony must be fact-based, not opinion. Commission may ask questions, and the applicant's attorney, if any, may ask questions in cross-examination. Members of the public can decline to be cross-examined. Staff may present additional testimony to supplement or rebut arguments made. The commission deliberates based upon the evidence presented. Commission's decision must be based on competent substantial evidence, meaning based on the record, staff presentations, expert presentations, and staff-paced comments by citizens according to the standards set forth for approval in the city code. The commission may then approve, deny, or continue an item. While staff previously read into the record emailed comments or letters, since the letters are not competent substantial evidence, for example, not sworn testimony subject to cross-examination, the board's decision cannot be based on what is contained in the comments or letters, but they can be used to identify issues and help identify sources of information that do contain competent substantial evidence upon which a decision can be based. Written comments or letters submitted before the meeting are part of the record and available for review by the commission. Lastly, we ask each of you to treat this proceeding with respect and proper decorum. No calling out, interrupting speakers, or disrupting the proceeding. Please give this proceeding the same dignity and respect as if you were in court. Disruptions are prohibited and enforceable pursuant to the city code. Please also silence your cell phones. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill, before I read the first item in, I want to ask if any commission members to disclose whether or not they've had any discussion with first item 17-92.
None.
None?
None.
None of the commissioners have indicated that they've had any discussions, as well as I have not had any discussions with outside parties regarding this item. So I'm going to go ahead and read this into the record. It's PC 17-92, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving an application for a conditional use permit in substantially the attached form for a proposed residential development consisting of a 4-story building with 48 units with a total of 29,722 square feet. Proposal has 64 surface parking spaces on a 0.62823 acre parcel of real properties located at 12290 Northeast 6th Avenue, 540 Northeast 123rd Street, and 12280 Northeast 6th Avenue, and identified with Miami-Dade folio numbers as follows: 06-2230-031-0020, 06-2230-031-0010, and 06-223-031-0030. In accordance with Article 3, Division 4, Sections 3-402 through 3-407, Article 4, Division 2, Sections 4-202, Section 4-203, and Section 4-205, and Article 4, Division 3, Sections 4-306 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. May we have staff report?
We'll have swearing in, sir.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you again. Madam
we can-
Secretary, may we swear in all those that would like to address this, including the petitioners? Anyone
So,
wishing to address this item or any of the other items, we're going to go ahead and swear in for the other 3 items. So if you're here to speak on any one of the 3 items, let's go ahead and swear you in now so you don't have to be sworn in at the time of the record. I'm seeing everybody so far.
that would be anybody again who wishes to speak.
Anybody
Make
that
sure you
wishing.
stand
Members of
now
your-
so I can
Members
swear
of
you
your
in.
team, if you wish to have them speak or whatever, or anyone in the general public that's here for any one of the items, go ahead and stand to be sworn in.
Okay.
Madam Secretary, you may go ahead.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony and evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Very good. And sir, the gentleman just walked in. Are you planning to speak? I saw you come in just as we were doing the swearing in.
Do you plan to speak on any item? Yes, with the glasses, sir? Do you plan on speaking on any of the items? Do you plan on approaching the podium tonight to speak on any of the items? If so, just stand. All you have to do is stand, and I will read you the oath, and you just need to swear. Oh, just to see.
Okay.
No talk. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you
evening.
very much. All right,
Thank you, Mr.
Cook.
Chair and Commissioners. Derek Cook with the Development Services Department. The item that you have before you is a conditional use permit. As stated by the chairperson, the request is a conditional use to allot 37 floating bonus units. The property is located generally at 12290 Northeast 6th Avenue, with a lot that is approximately 29,722 square feet, which is 0.628 acres. The current uses of the individual lots is vacant, is zoned R5, which is medium density on the zoning map and has a land use of medium density. It also has an overlay of PCD, which is the Planned Corridor Development Overlay District, which allots the site a maximum height of 110 feet and density of 100 units per acre. The proposal, as stated, is a 4-story residential apartment with 48 units. It also will have 64 surface parking lots. It would, excuse me. That is pretty ambitious, excuse me. Thank you for the correction. 64 parking spaces, not parking lots. It would promote transit use and curtail single occupancy vehicles. It enhance pedestrian experience with a new landscaping, enhance stormwater requirements, a sustainable landscaping design, and a reduced heat island effect by using roofing materials with solar reflection. The economic impact is anticipated to have 131 full-time and part-time jobs, which will accumulate approximate wages throughout the construction of $10.72 million in wages, was an estimated ad valorem taxes of $96,309. The impact and permit fees is estimated at $9,447,000. There will be affordable income with the area median income between 80 to 130%. The county's area income is $79,400. The conditional use permit has these conditions. It will require development review committee, construction and maintain a 10-foot sidewalk along Northeast 6th Avenue. All utilities will be underground. They would need to obtain a certificate of use and a business tax receipt, the BTR. They would need to provide LEED certification or equivalent certification through the Green Building prior to the certificate of occupancy being granted. And they would need to commit to sustainable commitments to low-impact development activities such as green field, stormwater retention on the site. The next steps for the project will be, as stated, they would need to go to the Development Review Committee, and they would need City Council approval for the site plan. That ends my presentation. Thank you. The applicant is here this evening.
And Mr. Cook, everything is, the concurrency items listed have all been met or within the...
The concurrency has been met. You have the water and sewer is already available in that area. It can maintain that capacity. As you note that this project is located on Northeast 123rd Street and Northeast 6th Avenue. You know, 6th Avenue is a major corridor at that location, and so it can deal with the capacity of the new trips onto the street. They do have some challenges located at that corner that they would need to attend to in their association with DOT, which I'm sure they have addressed.
We'll hear from them in a second. Make sure. And everything has been given to staff for review. You're not missing any items from them?
We're not missing any items. We have the impact. We have a utility impact study. We have the traffic study was received, and we have the economic impact was received from the applicant.
Okay, very good. So at this time, we'll go ahead and, if the petitioners are here, they may come to the podium, make the presentation. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you?
Esteemed Planning Commission, how are you?
Good.
Nice to see you guys again. We
Yes.
presented this project again back in February. Let me state Federico Zapata, Botanic
Yes.
Venture LLC and Project Land, 156 Northwest, 89th Street, Portal, Florida, 33150. I'm thrilled to present this project that we call Botanic. This is a significant opportunity for the area. Infill projects, I believe, like this are essential for the community revitalization. We also believe they are a catalyst and a step forward for addressing the nation's housing shortage. I want to extend my gratitude to staff for their unwavering support through this process. Working with them has been a truly rewarding experience. Like I mentioned before, in February, we presented this project to you for the land use amendment and the extension of the PC overlay, which was approved by council in May.
At that time,
Currently-
did you have illustrations with you at that time? I'm trying to remember back in
Yes,
February.
we do have illustrations and the plans that we presented together with that application have not changed. It's the same building that we presented at the time.
Okay.
Concurrently with the conditional use application, we are moving forward with the DRC application, and we are addressing the staff comments. And I'm gonna show addressing some of the comments. We're gonna show it tonight and what we're doing to address those comments. This project sits in the intersection of 123rd and 6th Avenue. I think this is important because we believe it's one of the key gateways to downtown's North Miami, a short walk from City Hall and the Museum of Contemporary Art. We are eager to transform this blighted site which have never seen development. As developers, we are committed to North Miami's future, and this commitment is sincere, as demonstrated by our continued investments in the area since 2017 through various projects as shown in front of you. As Derek mentioned, Botanic is a 4-story residential building with 48 units and a height of 46 feet 6 inches. As you can see on the table, probably it's a little bit small, but the PCD overlay allows for a greater height and a greater density. What we are proposing is 63% less height and 30% less density than permitted. This project has been designed to blend seamlessly with the immediate surroundings. We don't want to be the tallest building, we want to fit within this community. As you can see in the renderings, and the rendering in front of you, the building facade features a modern cornice line created by a fiberglass curved planter. These planters will enhance the overall appearance of the building by defining the vertical elements. To animate and mitigate the building's mass, we have incorporated several design elements. These include alternating curved balconies with railings, vertical rectangular frames for the bedroom windows filled with accent wood tiles, and inset sliding doors cladded with the same wood tile. These elements are harmoniously integrated to articulate the building's facades. The planters on the top not only create a modern cornice line, but also provide the building with a unique identity and signature quality. The pedestrian and vehicular access will be along 6th Avenue. We are proposing to expand the existing 6-foot sidewalk into a 10-foot sidewalk, thanks to a future 3-foot easement agreement. To the north of the entryway as seen in the axonometric, we are proposing a public seating area plaza. To the south of the pedestal, we are proposing an art sculpture. This will be part of a separate application later. The ground level will be dedicated to parking, the lobby, and the back of house areas. As part of our commitment to environmental sustainability, we are providing an enhanced stormwater runoff control system.
Is that within the garage area?
Excuse me?
Is that within the garage area?
It's within the entire garage area, correct? And the vehicular entrance.
Is that
You-
an
you can- you-
incline leading in to
Is-
is that an incline leading into your entranceway?
Correct.
How much of it?
I think the raise is 1 feet from the existing sidewalk to the lobby area, top of slab.
Do you have drainage at the end of that ramp?
We don't have drainage on the pedestrian walkway. This will be permeable pavers. But the driveway will have drainage
The-
leading
the-
in.
The driveway going into
The
the.
driveway going into the garage. I think the preliminary civil drawings that we have submitted together with the DRC application shows inlets on multiple areas throughout the parking garage and a storm water retention system. Our unit mix and sizes are tailored to families, modern living standards, and persons with disabilities. The primary unit type, 52% of the total, will feature 2-bedroom and 2-bath apartments, ensuring a diverse and inclusive community. When designing these units, we will use green building practices such as, but not limited to, Energy Star appliances, LED lighting, and energy performance design. There will not be amenities in the building. Through a thoughtful design, the units itself would be the amenities. Keeping the building simple allowed us to pass this saving to future tenants. We want this building to cater to the workforce market, as Derek stated on his presentation. This project has a unique location. It is located within half-a-mile radius of 21 existing bus stops, and the NOMI Express trolley routes are just blocks away, 3 out of the 4 routes. This ensures excellent connectivity and promotes the use of public transportation. In conclusion, Botanic is more than a residential building. It is a commitment to the future of North Miami. By transforming this underutilized site into a vibrant, modern community, we address critical housing shortage, enhance local infrastructure, and contribute to the economic vitality of the area, especially to the north. The staff has expressed the need of additional housing options, and we believe this project does so. The project aligns with the city's and staff vision for a dynamic urban core, providing new and affordable housing options, sustainable design, and substantial economic benefits. We respectfully request your favorable review and support of our project.
Thank you for your presentation. At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. This is for item 17-92. Anyone wishing to address this item, comment? will give testimony on it, please come forward. And again, reminder, please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Council. My name is Gio Darter, 12500 Northeast on 4th Avenue. I have several properties in North Miami. I'm a vested citizen, and I really promote good design and preservation. As you know, that I have preserved a few buildings here in North Miami, and I love the arts, and community. So this type of project for me is a perfect example of how good design should be introduced to our community. Unfortunately, we've seen some designs that are massive and overwhelming and don't fit our community. This one, as you say, it's smaller scale. He's actually worked with the neighboring city and actually the entrance of a very important area, which is 6th Avenue, 123rd. The fact that he's also now, which I noticed is actually new, the inclusion of an art component to the building. He didn't have to do that. And actually, it's a beautiful design that leads you to a safe area where it's welcoming. So I wasn't here for you actually today, but surprised to see this and love what you're doing, and it's becoming even better. The design is great. The inclusion to that area is bringing light. It's a vacant place that, so we're not destroying something to welcome this. It's actually building on a vacant lot, which is wonderful. It's been there forever, and it goes with the rest of 123rd, which is other condominiums there that hopefully, once this is set, they will decide to upscale their buildings, which are in much need of repair and maintenance. So I welcome this project.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else wishing to address this item? Please come forward. I see a hand, sir, if you'd like to come to address this. Again, this is for this item, 17-92.
My only concern is how much will it be?
Sir, I need your name and address
Oh,
for the
Ralph.
record.
So my name is Ralph. I'm a City of North Miami resident.
Can I have your first and last name, sir?
Ralph Caesar.
And then your address again?
885 Northeast 133rd Street.
Thank you.
So my only concern is, what would it be? So it's a 2-2. What will be the price?
Well, we'll
I
give a
asked that
chance
for
to ask him.
I asked that for a reason because I see the other projects in the area, and I feel as if the people who are actually residents from North Miami are being priced out. Right now, you said you wanted facts. North Miami residents make what, $51,398 according to city.com. Now, with that project, it says that there's an AMA of 79,000. I don't think City of North Miami residents are really going to be able to afford what's going on now. I don't know what the price is until we address it later. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else wishing to address this item? Good evening, ma'am. Please state your name and
Good
address.
evening. I'm Christina Boza. I'm a homeowner at 1050 Northeast 131st Street. I'm actually not here for this project, but I appreciated the scale of it, the design of it, and I did want to ask, I noticed in the landscaping, I'm seeing a lot of exotics. I'm seeing palms. I'm an agroecologist, by the way, and I'm seeing a lot of palms like agave, monsteras, and I'm not seeing natives. And we're in a really important corridor, this neighborhood. We're right in between Enchanted Forest, Arch Creek, and then the bird sanctuary of Biscayne Park. So we're really an important corridor for a lot of wildlife. So I would really like to see natives in your proposal of the landscaping. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to address this? Okay, all right, I see none. I'm going ahead and close the public hearing. The public hearing is now closed. And you may address some of the questions that
I'll
have
address
just been raised.
the gentleman first about the rates. We don't have it defined yet. This is a project that will be completed in about 2 to 3 years. So the rents at that time we'll address the rents at that when we get to that point. But the reason we are, and I stated on my presentation, we're not doing lobbies is because we don't pass those costs to the tenants. We want to keep the rents as low as we can So we meet those thresholds for affordable housing. And that's what we think is the competitive difference between what we are proposing and some of the new developments that you're seeing with big podiums and big amenities. So we'll try to appeal to the local market. In regards to the landscaping, the renderings sometimes are not a good reference. It's difficult to find all the specific species, but I invite the commenter, the lady, to review the landscaping plans that we have submitted together with the DRC. All the plants that will be planted are going to be native, and that's part of our sustainability effort.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go ahead and open up questions from the commissioners. I believe I'll start with Mr. Besson down in the front. Sir, good evening. You have the floor.
Good evening, Chairman. Question, I don't recall, because I was present when you presented this project originally, what is the availability of bike racks, and where would they be located, if any?
Yes, there are 5 bike racks towards the entrance,
That's
the
right.
main entrance. They're horizontal bike racks over this slab, and there are going to be 15 bike racks where people can hang it, and those are going to be in the ground level entrance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that was my question.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Seifried, do you have the floor, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I actually like the project, and as someone who rides a bicycle in our city, I'm quite interested in bicycle parking, and I think that's a good move. Recognizing that technology is changing far faster than we can effectively keep up, do you have an open door to electric charging ports for electric vehicles?
We do, and in fact, that's part of our DRC application where we show the details of the electric charging stations.
Okay, good, very good. All right, I like the project. I'm prepared to support it. I have no other questions.
Just a quick, to staff, is there a set number of, is there any kind of a regulation or a set number that, of charging stations that have to be included in the plans, or is that something that's not required?
I'm Derek Cook with the Development Services Department. Mr. Chair, no, it's not a set requirement. We do have it if, in our sustainability area, if they're looking to do parking reduction of required parking, then it's one of their choices is EV parking spaces. And if that's what, then they'll implement that in as part of receiving reduced parking for the site. And if I may also, just as a point of information, it is required that for landscaping, that it is 100% native.
Thank you very much on that point. Mr. Seifried?
Sir?
You may continue, I'm sorry.
All right, no, I have no further questions. I'm prepared to move this project forward after the others have spoken.
Okay, sir. Ms. Palmer, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for your presentation. My first question is going to be Botanic Venture LLC. Who owns it?
I represent the entity, and it's owned by multiple investors. They're limited investors, and they're individuals for the most part. They're not entities.
So the individuals form an investment group.
We form an investment group. I'm the representative. Then the parties, additional, call it limited partners, are multiple investors.
Okay, are they within country or outside of?
No, they're within the country.
Okay.
For the most part, they're here local.
Oh, they are local.
Yes.
Are they currently invested in North Miami, and if so, where?
We have we have another project called 123 NOMI. That project has been approved for site plan approval. We're working on the construction drawings, and it's 2 blocks away from here, and 4 blocks away from here on 126 Northeast 3rd. It's another project that is built and is operating, and it's called, we call it Griffin Garden. It's a 3-story, 5-unit apartment.
Where's Griffin Garden located?
126 Northeast 3rd, probably you have seen, it's difficult to miss it when you're coming from 125th.
I see
Looks
exactly.
looks like a big house.
Yes, I see exactly where you're talking about. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. My next question, I do agree with the gentleman that came forward. I forgot his name, but I am absolutely 100% for good development, smart development. And as Gio mentioned, it's great to see development that respects the current landscape of North Miami. However, I am concerned about pricing. I am very concerned about pricing those that currently live in the city out. So you did state that it's going to be workforce housing, and I
Correct.
know that 3 years from now, obviously, we're going to be in a different time space, and economically, things are going to be different. But based on what you're looking at, if it was built today, approximately what would be a 2-bedroom? If-
2-bedroom apartment will be $2,200 a month.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mulder. Mr. Clark, good evening.
Good
You have the
evening.
floor, sir.
I actually have a few questions. You said affordable housing. Are you seeking funding, or are you getting funding for affordable housing? Or is that just a term you're just using to say the rates would be low?
My term is workforce housing.
Okay.
I think the definition is of affordable. It's people that earns below 60 or 70%. I think that's the technical. There's multiple definitions. We're trying to appeal to workforce housing.
But you won't be getting any funding for providing.
I had preliminary conversations with the CRA director. There is currently, as we stand today, there is no funding for this area. But again, this project, it's probably a year from starting construction.
Mhm.
I'm reconvening with them in the future to see if the programs opens up, so we get CRA funding and to submit, then to have affordable housing available.
Okay. I mean, I like the project. I like the renderings you provided. I think it's going to be a benefit to the community. I'm a big component of infill projects, so I'm fine with it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Reed, you have the floor, sir.
That whole area over there needs to be redeveloped. I mean, the buildings over there, very shabby, old, dilapidated. When I hear you say that the amenities are going to be the apartment, I got to take a deep breath for a second. So you go to work, you come home, and now you're only going to look at your 4 walls. Is there going to be a garden out there? Is there something to help the people relax, to enjoy it, to have a little bit of more pride in it? We went through this discussion back in February, and I have a problem. I'm glad that you're putting this building up. Me, I would go higher, and I would put more amenities in it. I drive to the city of Miami, I see workforce housing, affordable housing, and I do see amenities in it. And when we say that we're not going to have amenities in it, it's like saying to the people, the residents that are going to move in there, they're like second class, you don't count. You're going to come to this apartment, this is going to be your apartment, and you're going to look at these 4 walls, and this is where the amenities are at. If you had a garden out there, some waterfalls, something that's going to make it inviting, that I'm going to be proud to come to this place. And that's basically what I'm looking at. You know, you mentioned a couple other things. This is the gateway to North Miami. So here I am looking at an apartment building, 3 stories, which in a few years is going to look like the rest of the apartment buildings north of 125th Street up to 143rd Street, I think our boundary up there is, or 147th, I forget which. Last year, I believe, we had a project going up on a very narrow piece of land. It's going to be workforce and market rate housing. I think it's 8 stories, and they put elevators in there, and they have the pool on the roof and the garden on the roof, and it's gonna be mixed use in there. And I'm just wondering why we don't have this project over there. You know, people work hard. They come home.
Yeah.
This is the United States. It's upward mobility. You start on the bottom and you want to come up. And you want to have pride. And I'm going to go along with the project, but I just want you to think about this.
Sure.
You know, I've been in this city 50 years, a long time. And it just kind of irks me that, okay, this is North Miami. We're going to build bare bones. That's it. We're going to call it workforce housing, and we're going to say, hey, this is your amenities. That doesn't cut it with me. I just don't buy into it. When I see other cities with workforce housing giving people true amenities, a swimming pool, a jacuzzi, a beautiful garden to walk in, something to have pride in. You know, I grew up in New York. I remember the projects up there. And it's, you know, I want you to think about that. See, I see you're going 3 stories here, and you could go 110. A little more imagination, a little more creative ability, and maybe you could have really a glamorous project out there with workforce people moving in that would have pride in that neighborhood. You know? And then I hear, well, okay, we have a housing shortage. Well, I'm seeing a lot of buildings going up, and I'm seeing a lot of for rent signs out there now. And yeah, I want to see new buildings coming in. I wish you a lot of luck with this. But that's just my philosophy on it. I'm sorry to be such a blowhard, but I want to see people enjoy their home. I want to see them live in North Miami and have pride in North Miami and not stay there for a couple of years and disappear. Okay, and say, well, I lived there, and now I'm out of here. Thank you. That's my editorial comment for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Each. Thank you so much. All right, well, we've heard from everybody, and I will go ahead and support it, the project. I don't really have much to add with what everybody else has said. I'd like to go ahead and entertain
Move for
motion.
approval?
For approval. Motion has been made by Ms. Lemur. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. I want to do a roll call on this, please. Madam Secretary?
Chairman Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Blamir,
Yes.
Commissioner Each,
Yes.
Commissioner Seyfried,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
and Commissioner Besson.
Yes.
Item
The
moves
motion passes unanimously,
6-0.
6-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move right along now to the second item on the agenda. This will be PC 17-93. If you give me 1 second, everyone, to get my pages set here. Okay, this is a resolution, this is a PC 17-93, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving an application for a conditional use permit in substantially the attached form for proposed conversion of 103 dormitory units to residential dwelling units for apartment buildings that are comprised of 1 60-unit 4-story building, 2 2-story building housing a combined 32 units, 1 2-story 11-unit building with 138 parking spaces on 5 parcels of real properties located at the following addresses: 1704, 1725, 1740 Northeast 125th Street, and 1705 and 1735 Northeast 124th Street, specifically identified with the Miami-Dade folio numbers as follows: 06-2229-007-0390, 06-2229-011-010, 06-2229-007-0350, 06-229-007-040, and 06-229-007-0410, totaling approximately 2.75 acres in accordance with Article 3, Division 4, Sections 3-402 through 3-407, Articles 4, Division 2, Sections 4-205, and Article 4, Division 3, Sections 4-304 and 3-310 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. This has been read into the record, and now I'm going to ask if anyone on the commission has had any discussions with anyone in the public or with the petitioner.
No.
No.
I hear none from anyone. Mr. Reed just stepped out, but I will take that as he has not. And I'll ask again, Mr. Reed, you have not had any disclosure, any conversation on this?
No, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. I should know
That's
that.
quite all right, sir. Not a problem. Okay, so I'll go ahead and Mr. Cook, you have the floor, sir. You may present your staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated by the chairman, the item before you is a conditional use permit. This is a unique situation. As it was stated by the chairperson, what you have is existing, well, it used to be dormitory units for the Johnson & Wales University. As you understand, when Johnson & Wales was sold, when they closed down, they had one developer who came and purchased the 20-some plus acres, it was like 27 acres, give or take, and then they went and divvied off these properties. The zoning for these property is PU, which is public use. Public use does not allow for residential use. However, subsequent to the close of the university, this purchase of the property, and the sale of the properties, the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District was extended over this area. And through the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District, that allows for a height up to 200 feet and density up to 150 units per acre through the conditional use permit process. And the applicant's effort to make these units that are serving as apartments, quote, legal, they are going through the conditional use permit process to obtain the density for those 103 units. Thus brings us to this point today that you have this application before you for this conditional use permit. As was stated somewhat in it, you have 103 units that they are seeking through the conditional use permit. The property is located at 1704, 1725, 1740, Northeast 125th Street, 1705, and 1735 Northeast 124th Street. The property is approximately 119,790 square feet, which is 2.75 acres, give or take. The current uses were officially known as dormitories. The zoning is PU, which is in the future land use map known for Community Facility University. It is also located within the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District, as stated, which allows for a height of 200 feet and density up to 150 units per acre. The proposal is to convert these dormitory units into rental apartments, which they are already operating as such. They will have to have enhanced stormwater for the site. They are doing some redevelopment, adding some parking area and refurbishing some parking areas to add more parking spaces. They will have 138 parking spaces on the site to serve the units. That is a slight reduction, and in doing so, we will be asking, as the chairperson talked about last time dealing with EV, they will add EVU parking spaces in the parking lot that is located to the, let's say this is to the northwest, as it is shown on the site plan. At the very end, that is at the corner of Northeast 17th Avenue and Northeast 124th Street. They will have EV parking spaces there, and they will refurbish the parking that is located on the north side of the property to add more parking spaces there. They also will have bicycles. As part of the conditional use permit, each developer is required to have parking, and that is based on the number of parking spaces that they have. Generally, anywhere from 0 to 100, you need at least 4 parking spaces for bicycle. This applicant is providing more than just 4 for the property. The economic impact is you have an existing buildings there. They are just bringing this back into breaking it legal, what they're operating. The economic impact will be that they would need to get a certificate of use, and they would need to get business tax receipt for the properties, which will bring in revenue that way. They are already paying taxes for the buildings for the use that they are doing. It's not adding any ad valorem to the city. They are already contributing. Conditions that they would need to meet, they will require development review committee for the modifications that they are doing to the site. They will need to maintain and provide for 6-foot wide sidewalks along Northeast 17th Avenue and Northeast 124th Street. Each unit needs to have a minimum size of 500 square feet. They have provided site plans that illustrate that they have minimum 500 square foot units. That's the minimum size required within the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District. As stated, they will need to get a certificate of use and business tax receipt. They will need to provide for sustainable things such as stormwater need to be maintained on the site. The next steps associated with the site, they will need to go to DRC, and we're saying site plan approval. This is probably not going to need to be done. I don't think they have 20,000 square feet of development area that they are redoing that would trigger city's the site plan going to city council for approval. That ends my presentation, Mr. Chair. If you have any questions.
These dormitories, some of the buildings, just want to take a look at the history on this whole area. Some of the dorms that were converted from apartment buildings originally.
Correct. That's correct.
So you have a mixture of some new ones that they built, that Johnson Wells built, and also ones that were converted from apartments.
Exactly.
mixed in. But, so, well, hopefully the developers are here, they can probably go over a little bit more.
So if I
explain
may,
that to us.
Mr. Chair, so we've had this discussion with other applicants, and I'm gonna go into the weeds a little bit, if I may, on the matter.
Please.
So when when Johnson Wells ended, and you had the developer come in and bought it and then sold off the lots, you had all these dormitory uses there. And as it is, the PU, public use, doesn't allow for residential use. So you had people who come in who bought up these buildings with the intent that they would be able to immediately convert them into residential use, which is not permitted because the zoning and the land use did not allow it. And then subsequent to that taking place, and we had told people this right up front, if you buy this, you won't be able to convert it. People went forward and did it anyway. And it has brought about some angst. Then we subsequently brought in the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District over there on Emerald Drive with the update and adoption of the comprehensive plan that just took place on the 25th of last month. That area has been zoned to R6. You're going to have some units there that would need to go through the transition of either getting legalized. If they need to come through the conditional use permit process, they may be coming before you to get bonus units because the building that they have has greater density than what the actual by right is which is the R6 is 25 units per acre. So that's going to trigger them coming before you if they have, let's say they have 60 units. I can think of the building that is right there on the far north end of Emerald Lake that, on Emerald Drive, that probably would need to go through a conditional use because they have several units there. Then you have parking that they would need to attend to and things to that effect. So that's what has brought us to this point. And what is key to us in these official conversion, that each unit needs to meet the minimum size. If you're if you're in the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District, then you need to at least have a minimum unit size of 500 square feet. Those units that are in the R6, they would need to have a minimum size of 750 square feet. If they are not able to achieve that, then they would need to go through a variance process to deviate from that requirement, and then they would need to go through the Board of Adjustment. That gives you somewhat of an overview on how we have got to this point.
With all the pieces on the property, now, the properties combined, are they concurrent with what is required for, that needs to be addressed?
So they do meet the concurrency because they already been serviced by water and sewer. They wouldn't impose any more burden on the street system per se because you have a slightly different use from the dormitory because you have those breaks during the summer months and things of that. But these units have been functioning as apartments for a period, and so whatever impact they have on the streets and things to that effect is already being integrated in there. The concern is that we have going to the south, you have the Mount of Biscayne that is coming in. They are all well on the way of building. I think that is 350 or 380 units that they're going to have there. So they are already serviced there for the concurrency. So they're not adding any impact to the city that cannot be absorbed. The very nature of having them go through this conditional use permit is to codify that. They are pulling from the bonus units. The bonus units have been already calculated in our service level, and they are obtaining those bonus units.
Very good. If you have nothing more, we'd like to hear from the petitioners. If they're here this evening, you can come forward with a presentation. Do you have any?
Hello, my name is Ahmad Aljbour with Urban Design. Urban Design is representing the applicant. Usually, my colleague Chris Collins usually comes to this one, but he had a last-minute emergency, so I'm here to cover him for this.
One more time, give us your name and address. for the
Ahmad
record.
Aljbour with Urban Design. Our office is at 666 Northeast 125th Street.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay,
IMC.
You may begin.
I think he's gonna
We're
answer
just
the
here if
question.
you have any question. I was here just to make up for Chris Collins.
Oh, all right, so you don't have anything other to add than what staff said?
No, he covered everything, and no, nothing to add.
I have a few questions, but let me go ahead and open the public hearing first. And then if anyone wants to address this item or has any concerns, please come forward. The public hearing is now open. I see none and hear none. I'm going to go ahead and close it. All right. Again, give me
Might
your
as well
name and
participate
address.
while we're here. My name is Christina Boza, 1050 Northeast 131st Street. My question is, I appreciate how they're keeping it as is instead of like creating something much larger. But I wonder if we're changing the zoning, does that sort of like create an invitation to say, let's sell it to someone else who's going to make something bigger? So I think that's just sort of like my concern, is that like maybe like a long-term intention, like, oh, we'll change the zoning as it is on this small scale, and then we'll sell it to put something bigger.
Okay, thank you. Let me go ahead and close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. If the petitioner wants to address that, or Mr. Clark, if you want to interject something at this time.
Through the chair, the zoning had transpired several years ago. You know, it is instituted now. Somebody could come in right now through the conditional use permit to her question, remove those, and they could build something with 2.7 acres. That's about 400 units, and they can be 20 stories.
So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the questions to the gentleman that spoke. If you want to come up, I'm sure we have some questions that we want to address, and just get a couple more facts from you as to, you know, what your plans are with this development. I'm gonna kick off if everybody, if no one minds. First of all, there are dorm configurations now. Is that correct?
Yes, it
So
is.
what does the makeup of each unit within those buildings consist of? Give us an idea. Are you taking that and changing them into two apartments, 3 apartments, studios? What is the plan for the conversion? I mean, you're saying you're converting, but I'm trying to get an idea of.
Right.
Right now, if they were converted to dorms, there's a whole different layout that exists there now.
Correct.
So,
I'm not quite sure how many on the number of bedrooms, but each unit will be at least 500 square feet as the minimum required in the city of North Miami for this location.
so you have no plans for,
No,
you can't tell us whether or
usually
not some
Chris
of them are gonna be
Collins,
3x2.
the project manager, had a last-minute emergency, so I just had to come to cover whatever I can have answer.
Mr. Clark, there's a lot of missing facts here on this project that, you know, we all want to see this converted, but, you know, it's kind of tough to,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I might be able to give you a little insight on that. When Johnson & Wales purchased these buildings,
It's all right.
yes.
they did not modify them. They're apartments, and what they would do, there's other issues I want to get into with the staff on this, but what they would do is, you would have 2 of the pupils in the living room sleeping. You would have 2 in the bedroom sleeping. You would have another 2 in another bedroom sleeping. So basically, the configuration of these buildings are when they were developed. 1700, 133rd Street, the one on Emerald Lake.
Right.
Basically, that building stayed the same.
Right.
Same thing with the 2 properties next to me. They didn't modify the inside of it. Palm Gardens, I believe they did a lot of renovation to that building because, and they even cut the balconies down and they put new windows and doors and all that stuff, and they brought it up to standards at that time, whatever it was called for. But basically, most of those apartments over there are as they were when they were built 50, 60 years ago, if not longer, especially I think Palm Gardens.
If I may, through the
Yes.
chair, they have provided floor plans for the apartments in your packet.
You know, I'm trying to, it's kind of
So
small.
if you look at,
But
you look,
if he could, you know, the public and the people haven't seen him, you know, I was just hoping he can kind of give us a little bit of a overview. This
But they're
is
being
called
modified to meet the code requirement.
yes, they are. They have to be a minimum 500 square feet. We don't have, like in some cities, that you need to have a minimum floor area to be studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. You know, if they were not in the overlay district, as I discussed in it, they would need to be, for our city, it's 750 square feet, and the overlay is 500 square feet. They do have a breakdown of their larger building that is to the very north, which is 61 units. They give you the floor plan there. And then with the smaller buildings and units, they give you, as you can see from the floor plans on there, these seem to be a little more substantial units in those buildings. Some 2, 3, some 2 in 1 bedroom.
From the
Yeah.
developers to go over that for us and make it give us a little bit more clarity on it. You know, I'm looking at floor plans now, but if he can't answer questions about it, you know, I'm not getting some of the information that I really need. You know, to make it inviting for somebody to want to rent, you know, I think we would like to discuss, and maybe perhaps Mr. Each is big into amenities. If there are any amenities missing now, this would be an opportunity for amenities to be added in this conversion period. You know, and I don't,
They've been in use for, since they moved in there. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been renting these places out for the last, when did they take this over? 3 years ago?
no, I thought they were abandoned.
No, they
Mr.
weren't
Cook?
empty. They
Oh,
haven't
they
been
have
sitting
been-
empty. No, they've been in use.
So it's at least 3 years ago. I
Yeah,
think about 4
they've been
years
in
ago
use.
when
They're
they
not
did
sitting empty at
this.
all.
So basically, all we're doing is, this is like making a text amendment saying that we're converting these to,
We making them right.
It's
I have a couple
conditional
of
use
questions.
approval.
I'm sorry, Mr. Earl?
It's a conditional use approval. You're allocating 103 dwelling units from the pool in order to legalize the conversion from dormitory
I see.
to
I
apartment.
apologize for not knowing that they were occupied. I had thought that once the students moved out, I didn't know that whoever purchased this were going ahead and using that. And, I mean, if you know, were they in, they weren't, they were non-conforming, basically.
Is it-
So as in my overview, and forgive me for not being clear, you had these existing dormitories, you had people who came and purchased them. We had advised them that they just couldn't just come in and convert them into living units, that there would need to be a process because the zoning doesn't allow it. You had those who, you know, do and ask for forgiveness later, and here we are.
So, question.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Cook, they had certificates of occupancy, so they weren't occupied illegally as far as, health safety, right? It was just the zoning issue that is now being resolved.
Principally,
Okay.
Are there any other buildings that we would be looking at down the road here in this
Yes.
whole area that we converted over?
yes.
So would us allowing this to conform, giving them the mechanism to conform to what is needed to go ahead and you would have to, by the way, there is a certificate of use permit that would have to be reissued or issued again.
Issued,
And also, if they're going to, a certificate of business certificate also,
yes.
so all that. So any of the other buildings that were not in the discussion tonight that we may see down the road, we'll have to go through all of that.
Yes, sir, and if I may, through the chair, is to point of clarity, it also somewhat, I think, address your concern. Are they gonna have units that are suitable for people to live in? Because if you have traditional dormitory units, they tend to be smaller than what traditional, and this process would require them to at least meet the minimum code requirement or go through the variance process to deviate. Some of them, you know, meet that 500 square foot may just be simply renovate here and there to tweak it. The ones that maybe have to meet that 750 square foot, that may be a challenge for them. But they're gonna need to meet that to be able to be approved.
And will these be, we're looking at a rental market, correct? Or are they planning to do any kind of
For this
conversion.
particular use right here, they are talking about rental. As for the others, I believe they are renting them as they are right now. Will that change to be, condos sold? I don't know. They haven't had that discussion.
Yes, sir.
When they go before the DRC, they will have to produce detailed floor plans so you can verify the 500-foot minimum, right?
They have to do that then and prior to DRC, really. And I had this applicant provide me with the floor plans to confirm that they were at least 500 square foot before I brought it even
So
before
you
you.
do have all, we do
Yes,
have it.
that's why I have
You'll
the
to
floor
forgive me
plans in.
Because it is kind of hard to
Yes.
see these small drawings. And that's why I needed to actually have the designer or whoever's handling the architecture on this conversion. Now, okay, I'm going to let somebody else speak, and I'll come back to this. Mr. Besson, I see you may have some questions. You have the floor, sir.
Well, this is a fairly large project. There are implications as to renovations and resales and so on. I don't think the person that's representing this project is equipped to answer the questions that we would need in order to make an intelligent decision on whether to grant this application or not. I think maybe we should, would the word be table it until they can provide us with somebody that would have the knowledge
Well,
base.
Maybe
Or-
continue.
A continuance of the
Thank
item.
you. A continuance.
Well, that's something that we can address. If anybody wants to speak before we get to that point.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yes, Mr. Clark.
I mean, I don't see the need for a continuance. I think it's, at least for me, it's very clear. I mean, it was dormitory. They converted. Me and Mr. Each know it was converted. It's not meeting the standards. We're trying to correct an issue. So I don't see the confusion. I think there's a requirement that they're going to have to meet. Some of the units will need to be modified. They provided floor plans. I think we're making it a little bit more difficult. With all due respect, I just think it's
No, I
becoming a
understand.
little bit more difficult than it needs to be. I don't think we need someone to explain that right now they're using it and it's not by right. And we're just trying to correct something.
It's in use right now.
Ms. Palmer?
So, Mr. Cook, I think that it is not in the best interest of the board to agree and to make a decision on this tonight when the applicant, number one, is not present, nor do they have someone present who can answer the questions. On top of that, they purchased it knowing that they did not have the legal right to turn it into legal apartments. And they did it anyway. And so the least that they can do, as Mr. Clark stated, at this point, that they want to make it right, that they can be present, that they can show drawings, they can show a detail of what it is that they want it to become. And now, at that point, we can say, okay, fine, we can work towards making it right. But as it stands, I'm going to vote no. You came in, you purchased it, knowing that it was not in order. You did it anyway. You are currently renting it out illegally. Yes or no? Yes or no?
I don't think Mr. Clark can speak on that.
So who can speak on it? Is it legal or is it illegal?
Well, we could say conforming or non-conforming.
Is it conforming or non-conforming?
Right now, to be able to do residential use in this area, you need to go through the conditional use permit to obtain units. So if you're operating as a residential use and you're not grandfathered in, that means that you was operating as a residential use, true apartment or condos, while the university there, and after the fact, then you are not legally operating today.
He is illegally operating, period.
Well, however, we changed.
So therefore,
No.
No, yeah, I understand what
Yeah,
you're
no, I
saying.
understand what you're saying. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
but we, the city, through our zoning on the 25th, we've changed that area to R6. That's where correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Polari, that's where
So in this area, a few years ago, we extended the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District. And through that you can obtain units through the conditional use permit. They are coming before you today to get the conditional use permit for the units that they have there to make themselves whole.
So you are correct that they purchased it as a dormitory and couldn't, and they moved people in. That is a fact. But we, the city, not them, changed that to R6, and now there's certain buildings that have more units than are allowed by R6. So that's what we're dealing with. It's not the fact that they used it it's the fact that there's a gap between the amount of units that they have and what the R6 allows. That's what we're trying to do.
So for clarity, and my apologies for making the water muddy. All right. For this, my apologies. Okay, and I ask your grace. Blame it on my head, not my heart, in this situation. So for this specific area, they are zoned PU, and they have the overlay of the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District. The zoning doesn't allow for residential at all. The PU does not.
Public use.
Correct.
The overlay, through the conditional use permit, allows for you to obtain residential use in units through our bonus pool. This applicant is obtaining residential units through our bonus pool through the conditional use permit to be able to have those they have 103 units there now. They are asking for 103 bonus units from our pool. And in doing so, it makes them whole.
and so I just want to be clear,
Let's-
this 103 units, bonus units that they are able to apply for, we don't have to give it to them. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that means that they have to go through a process in order to get it. So although we have changed or included this area into this overlay, that doesn't mean that they automatically get it.
That's correct.
Okay, I still say no for tonight.
Can I,
I do believe that the individuals who are representing this project should be present, that they should be here to answer the questions. I think that there should be a presentation, and then moving forward, we can be in a better position to say yes.
I just have one question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Does this have an impact on the potentially 103 residents that currently occupy the residence? So if we do not do something tonight, are those residents at risk of being asked to move out of those units?
I mean, if we push the envelope to that point, I mean, it could manifest it, but,
They will become victims of a messed up system.
Yes, it is. And what had taken place here? Let's go back in about 3 years ago. IMC purchased several properties. And this was at the height of the housing shortage. I don't know who or what arrangements were made with the city, but let's go back. These are not typical dormitories. These are not a room with 2 beds in it. There's only one I'm pretty familiar with Johnson Wales. There's only one property, and it's a new building that they're gonna subsequently rip down. It's the one on 123rd Street behind the wall. And that was the only one that's built as dormitories. What Johnson Wales did is they purchased buildings, they left the apartments as apartments, and it was amazing. It was, I was in them. They were my neighbors for how many years? 2 in the living room, 2 in this bedroom, 2 in that bedroom. You had 6, 8 students living in some of these apartments.
Did they have amenities on it?
Well, they had one. They had a pool at 1700 133rd Street, and they closed that in, and then they put the pool by the old Voyager, and now that's closed. But I don't think the other apartments had it. Then they ripped down apartment buildings, and they built the Scott Galvin Center. They built that, and they did a lot of things over there. But that's how this came about, and they moved in. But my question now is, you all brought up some really good points here. And when we did our initial study for apartment use and how many, I think it was 5,000 units that we were going to put into the apartments, okay? Why in the name of God, they have 133 units right now, is that correct?
103.
103 units, okay. So why would we have to take units out of that pool of apartments if these apartments are already existing, and actually, the amount of service is gonna go down? They're not gonna have the same impact as they had when you had 8 students living in the dormitory. Now you're gonna have a couple living in there, or a couple with a couple of kids. So I wanted to bring that up tonight because I don't quite understand it. These buildings were already established, they're there, so why are these extra apartments coming out of that pool? It doesn't make any sense. It's like a mirage.
If you wish, I could go.
Tell me.
The dormitory units are not permitted under existing zoning.
I understand that.
Without a school attached to it.
I got that.
There
That
is
I
no
know.
more, you know there's no school attached to it.
We got rid of the
So,
PU.
in order to maintain a residential use, by changing the name from dormitory to apartment, you need to allocate units from the pool. There's no other way to do it. Now,
That doesn't make
to
any
me,
sense.
well,
It
life
doesn't-
is like that sometimes.
No, but I mean,
So,
let's.
no, so,
Okay.
We're
to
shuffling
me,
papers, Chief.
this is really a simple application, because it could be a lot more complicated if they were demolishing these buildings and building what Mr. Cook told you would be permitted under the existing zoning. The point is that it's minimal impact. All they need to do is upgrade the units to convert into a residential apartment, and there's really, all they're really doing is an adaptive reuse of an existing structure, and it's really not a complicated application.
Now, we understand it's not complicated, but our problem is that we're not getting a clear picture of the process that they want to do to convert this or change it. For all we know, they may want to change the configuration. Those are little things that we would like to know, because it may, down the road, affect the tax base, because that property those apartments may have a different value if they're upgraded or not. Is that correct? I mean, if you upgrade something to what it is now, or if you join some of the apartments together and make a bigger unit out of them, whatever, those are things that I wanted to understand if they were going to do with inside the building, that structure. If they were going to take an existing 2x2 building, tear down a wall, and let's make a 3 or 4 bedroom apartment out of it. Those things, I think, are kind of important for us to know, just so that we get an idea of what their plans are for this, kind of educate us a little bit.
So, Mr. Chair, to your point, that's something that you would need to speak to the applicant to cooperate.
And he's not here tonight.
And I do understand. I only can tell you what I know is their intent is to leave the situation as is. They're not talking about wholesale modification. This is done to Chief Each point. You had in this situation, and to his quandary with his on why we are even here, you had these buildings that were originally apartments.
No, I understand.
Came residents.
I saw the transition. I
Yes,
quite understand that.
and then they just converted it back. They only doing the bare minimum to meet the max, to meet that floor area, and things like that, and bringing in, fixtures to accommodate an apartment use.
Can the representative that was here can he verify in some way what our planning director has just stated, with what your current plans are with regards to whether or not you're going to modify these apartments, or give us an idea of what you need to do to either enhance them or just leave them like they are?
Like he mentioned, the plan here is just to do, not to do modification to the buildings or to the structure of the buildings. The apartments will be a minimum of 500 square feet to meet the standards.
Some of them. Or all of them 500 feet
No, there will be at least 500 square feet, but
at least
yes,
for some of the units?
to meet the minimum requirement for the area in the city.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr., well, let me hear from Mr. Seifried. We've been through this together before, sir, so
Yes, I have,
help us out a little bit here with,
all right,
with
let
a
me
different
ask you
perspective
something.
on this.
We're
if you
talking
could.
about 103 bonus units, so does that mean this project will have 206 units in total?
No.
They've already got 103, so
Exactly, no, they're not counted.
They're not counted as
Zero
units.
units.
They have 0 units.
is that what we're doing? So they're counted as 0 units, so they claim 103.
No, we're giving them.
We're giving them the bonus pool to, but in point of fact, that doesn't really diminish the number of units in the pool, does it?
Yes, it does. 103.
Yeah, it's in the staff report.
Even though they've already got 103 units, we just
They don't have-
130.
Yeah, they don't
They're
have.
not constituted as
Yeah,
units.
they're
They're
not, they're
not
not recognized
proposed.
as units.
Because they're tied
So
to,
we
so-
have a developer who's been illegally renting for at least 3 years and collecting his revenue stream, very happily thumbing his nose at the city, and I look at this, and this is a
It's possible he's paying taxes on it.
which is nice of him to do that, I think, you know, given that these are already 60-year-old buildings and wouldn't meet the current hurricane code as they currently stand. Well, by the way, do they have to upgrade the windows and doors to hurricane code, or since this is an old property, are they exempted from that?
They would have to go through the building permitting process to, the 40-year certification. If they officially are converting and doing modification, they would need building permitting to do that. So they have to go through that process, and in doing so, the building department will confirm that they are meeting standards.
So,
Which
So-
doesn't really quite answer my question
No,
as
I
to
agree with you.
hurricane windows and things. You see, because
It's
we-
not a
that-
requirement that they have to have hurricane
Not a
windows.
requirement. Okay,
Yes.
that's
That's
what we want to
what
hear.
we want to hear.
So they're not really doing much more than putting a coat of paint on this. Pardon me for saying so. This is an example of a sow's ear that doesn't quite rise to the level of a silk purse. Now, and those of you that are of a certain age, I think, can relate to that bit of humor. I am disappointed that the developer doesn't have a more robust presentation tonight. I understand, yes, you're right, Gary, this is a simple matter. But I side with Charlie. I think we're missing insight and details. And at this point in time, I'm inclined to support Mrs. Bleemer on this, and I don't see the urgency to move this forward until the developer can get in here with a more detailed presentation, respecting the gentleman that came to just cover the bases politely. I am inclined to grant a continuance on this at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question also on this. May I ask?
Yes, sir.
I have to ask, why are we doing just this portion of it? Why not, where's 1700 133rd Street, Emerald Lake Apartments? Where's 13025, 13035? Why isn't that also brought up? Or has it been changed? I don't know. Has that zoning been appropriately changed? And I know you changed the zoning, but they were still dorms. And I don't think that's been brought up. And like you said, if they're going from dorms to residential, you have to bring the dorms up to standard, or the apartments up to standard, like you just mentioned, storm windows.
Yeah, when you have an older property, you're not obligated to meet current hurricane codes.
And the same thing with the, wouldn't that also pertain to the sanitation where you have to have your dumpsters enclosed and everything?
So they would have to bring it up.
When is that gonna come up?
It's a lot of history with this. They have
Yes.
upgraded the pump station associated with this area to accommodate the service that is there. So they are meeting the concurrency for the site. They're just seeking to convert the to the units. It's complicated to Chief Each when you were apartments and you officially became dormitories and you had the land use and zoning change. That apartment use is gone,
That's right,
Right.
that I understand.
and now to come whole,
They have to come back to.
yes,
Yeah.
and that requires taking actual units out of our pool to accommodate that service level.
That's not my question, though. My question now is, the other properties that they own on Emerald, why don't we make it just one shot? Why are we piecemealing this? Why is 13025, 13035, Lakeside, 1733rd Street? Let's get the whole show done. Why is that gonna be waiting and we're only doing this one?
Well, perhaps they have other plans for that property.
I mean, I like to know. I mean,
Yeah.
my neighbors would like to know. I think this board would like to know. We're piecemealing this out, and I think you should ask.
Or in fact, maybe they want to sell that property. We don't know. There's all kinds of speculation. And we're gonna get off, we're gonna get off track.
They've been relatively good neighbors.
Sure.
But, let's get this thing done. If we're gonna do it, let's do it correctly.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to continue?
I'd say.
Second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to continue this item.
Date certain.
And now I'll entertain a second to the motion.
to the
Yes, sir,
next
Mr. Held, do you have something you need to
Well,
say?
Yes, it needs to be to a date certain. So I
September
presume you're doing it to the September meeting.
September
There's
meeting?
no adverse impact on the people that live there, so
No.
does it make a difference if it comes up now or in September or October? They're gonna be living there, it's not gonna not hurting anybody.
I don't know.
I
Who would
don't,
answer that
yeah,
question?
I think
don't
that, I
know.
think the city has to understand that they should not take any action against those residents because of what we need to find out about this, since, I feel that they need to be responsible to let them know that they're not gonna get kicked out because of what we're coming up with tonight to continue this. We have their well-being in mind, but they're kind of in a no man's land now, and a victim of some pretty bad planning here on the city's part, and also the developer. A lot probably could have gotten solved tonight if we'd had the developer here to say, this is what I can do, what I'll do, what we can't do, and so forth. And we're not hearing that. And, it's not fair to you, Mr. Clark, to have to take the heat for them not being responsible. And to me, they're showing a lot of irresponsibility by not being present to educate us more on this. So there's been a motion. Do I have a second on it?
Yes, I seconded.
Motion's been seconded by Mr.
Seyfried.
Yes, by Mr. Seyfried.
Seyfried.
Getting long here. We may have to take a break for the next item.
So we have a
So
motion.
we do need, let's
Take
do
a roll call.
a voice vote for continuance.
So we have a motion to continue to the September meeting, item PC 1793. Chairman Ernst.
Yes, to,
To the
To
motion
continue.
Yes,
Yes, to
yes, meaning to
continue.
continue to the September meeting. Commissioner Blemire,
Yes.
Commissioner Each,
Yeah, yes.
Commissioner Seyfried,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
So it's unanimous.
Commissioner Besson?
Yes.
We have a unanimous vote of 6-0.
All right, so, Mr. Cook, if you can, you know, let's hope this gentleman can come September and that we can plan on that, him with a presentation. And if you could relay to him, if staff can please relay to him our concerns, which are numerous, and we weren't, you know, drawings are there, we understand. He submitted drawings, but we need a little bit more explanation other than what's kind of hard to see on these little diagrams. And also more clarity with I would think, you have Mr. Each?
Yeah, Derek, and please, ask him about the other properties over there.
So I was, if I may, to the chair.
Yes.
I was
yes, sir.
looking at the property owners for this site and the ones on Emerald, is leased on property appraisal, they are not the same people.
Not the
Well, I
same.
believe it was IMC that owned them all. I don't know, maybe they got it subdivided. Well,
No.
let's find out what's going on with 130, 25, and 20, you know.
Okay.
I know it's IMC, but, and I know IMC's got that, maybe they got different, I know they do, they got about 110 buildings, I think, or something like that, so. I figured
I mean,
let's just get it out of the way.
If you can understand our frustration is that this took place, that I was unaware that those buildings were occupied. I thought once the school moved out, you know, to be honest with you, I didn't know that they were going to immediately turn them into rental property and have tenants move in. So these are things that I just learned tonight. I don't know how many other people knew that. Maybe I'm sure you did.
knew all that.
You knew, but I didn't. And that it was a non-conforming issue.
You got your,
All right.
make sure you check your things here, you got the wrong street, you got northwest instead of northeast, 17th Avenue, 124th, on your planning commission report on that. Just check your, your northeast over there, not northwest.
So say northwest and not northeast?
You should be
Okay.
saying northeast, not
Okay.
northwest.
Okay, yes.
We have one more item to attend, so that will be moved to our September 5th meeting.
Well, once I'm able to confirm it, so it's definitely just being moved to the
All right.
September meeting.
And if they're not ready
whatever
then,
date it is. Yeah, it's
the
either
next
gonna be the
available-
5th or the 11th.
Yeah. You know, we want to expedite this as quick as possible.
I will, per your direction,
All right.
speak with the applicant when he's available
Thank you,
about
Mr.
it.
Cook. Does anyone need to take a break, or can we just go ahead and move into PC 17-94?
Let's take a break.
Okay, I think there's some people that would need to take a break. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. We're recessed. It is now 9:50. We'll,
No, it's 8:50, sir.
I'm sorry,
8:50, and we'll
8:50.
resume at 8:55.
8:55.
5-minute break.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're requiring a lot. Go in there. That's the only way, because it was tied to a public unit, to public which means you can't have units on public use. So the units have been moved. They're no longer considered apartments.
Are you ready?
Exactly, you're right. There's-
One more minute?
As of right now,
Okay.
I agree with you, but as the way it's zoned right now, that doesn't constitute as units. So the units have to come to zoning, or we have to change the zoning. And the zoning
There
is,
should be a caveat, because that makes no
the zoning is more complicated. Chair, the zoning is more complicated.
Perdón. Wow, mis lentes. Perdón un ratito, ¿eh?
big money, of course.
Sí, correcto. PowerPoint. Okay. Sí, con todos los dibujos.
Or somewhere.
Yo no sé qué hizo, pero... Ok. Pero eso, ¿yo hablo acá entonces? Ah, perdón.
That wasn't close, like Galvin,
Wildcat Center. Wildcat Center.
Wildcat, that's it.
¿Cuál este?
I thought that area where the trailer park was would be the first thing to get developed. And it's still abandoned. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's so beautiful in that way.
We're all set? Okay, she's setting him up for presentation.
You're Mr. Cook? We've spoken on the phone a number of times. I'm Albert Rodriguez. I'm the
Mr.
architect for
Rodriguez?
this project. We spoke
Nice.
a bunch of times. I don't
Yes.
know if you remember.
Yes.
Very nice to meet you.
My pleasure, thank you.
Okay, we're good? Okay, we are, we are back up and running again. So, thank you everyone for sticking around. Next item is PC 1794. This is quasi-judicial. If anybody new has come in, since we sworn everybody in that wants, that may want to speak, we, okay. Okay.
If there's anyone here who wasn't here at the time, yes, please stand so you could be sworn in. Okay.
And Warren, for the record, since I'm not testifying, just providing argument, I usually don't swear in.
I believe you still have to, Mr. Geller.
Yeah, you still
Mr.
have,
Geller, you still have to
you
swear
still have
in.
to stand and swear. No?
I didn't, so,
Okay.
usually I don't because I'm only providing argument, not testimony, but if that's your rule,
Yeah.
go ahead and do that. then.
Yes, would be helpful, because if you're going to present any kind of fact-based evidence in your argument, it still
Okay.
has to be sworn in for
I
that.
yield to your rule. I
All right.
typically don't, but if
Thank
that's
you.
your rule, I'll comply.
Mr.
Okay.
Hell?
All right,
Yeah.
so, no? Would you
Wait.
like to say something?
So typically, the rule is that what attorneys say is not evidence, it's argument. But if you prefer, and he's willing to, then swearing him in is fine.
Your,
I don't
your
object.
alternative. All right, Mr. Geller.
One of my
Thank you.
clients might get sworn just in case. We don't anticipate he'll testify.
All right,
but
that would
while
help.
I'm doing
It won't
just in
hurt.
case.
It won't hurt if you feel compelled to
Okay.
want to add something. All right,
All right.
Madam Secretary, you may.
Wonderful. Do you all swear to affirm that the testimony and evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I did.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. Okay, I'll read the item in first before I ask the commission if they have any conflict of interest or need to disclose anything. So this is PC 17-94. This is a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving an application for a conditional use permit in substantially the attached form for a proposed 10-unit, two-story townhome development comprised of 2 5-unit buildings with 1 car garages and 6 surface parking spaces for a total of 16 parking spaces on 2 parcels of real property that consist of a vacant lot identified with Miami-Dade folio number 062229-050-0451 and a lot with an address 13030 Northeast 10th Avenue, identified with Miami-Dade County Dade County folio number 06-2229-050-0240, totaling approximately 0.52 acres in accordance with Article 3, Division 4, Sections 3-402 through -304-7. Article 4, Division 2, Sections 4-202, Section 4-203, parentheses A, Sections 4-204, Section 4-205, and Article 4, Division 3, Section 4-305 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations, providing for an effective date and all other purposes. So before staff makes his report, I'll ask anybody on the Planning Commission if they've had any discussions with anybody on this item. Ms. Blumer?
No.
No? Mr. Seyfried?
No.
Mr. Lesson? No. Mr. Clark?
No.
Mr.
No.
Beach? No. And I have not either. All right, Mr. Cook?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated, the item before you is a conditional use permit for the property generally located at 13030 Northeast 10th Avenue. Also accompanying this is a vacant lot that is located at that corner of 10th and, what is this street? 130 Street there. The applicant is seeking to obtain 7 floating units. As was stated, the property is approximately 0.25 acres. Is zoned R2. R2 has a density of 5.1 acres, 5.1 units per acre. Based on the size of the lot, they could have 3 single-family homes there, 3 townhomes there. They want 10. They need 7 units from out of the bonus pool to be able to do 10 townhome units at the location. Approximately, the property is 22,696 square feet. Current use is single-family in one lot and vacant on the other. As stated, it is zoned R2 with, on the future land use map, it is designated as low-density residential. It is also located in the neighborhood redevelopment overlay boundary, the NRO, which allows for a maximum height of 90 feet and 90 units per acre. The proposal is for a 10-unit townhome development with 16 parking spaces. You have 1 car garage, and then you have 6 surface parking spaces within the development. The property will consist of 5 2-building townhome, which are 2 stories in height. It would contain landscapes and open space. It would have enhanced stormwater requirements, and it would have sustainable landscaping, which includes 100% Florida native and trees, and reduced urban heat island effect. The economic impact is anticipated to have 35 direct and indirect jobs, and they're anticipated to have $3,750,000 in revenues wages during the development of the site. The ad valorem is anticipated to have $300,000 annually, and the impact fees are anticipated to be approximately $250,000 for the impact fees. The conditional use has several conditions, in that this application will require Development Review Committee, DRC, the construction and maintaining of 6-foot sidewalk along Northeast 131st Street and Northeast 10th Avenue. All utilities will need to be underground. They would need to obtain a certificate of use and a business tax receipt, the BTR. They also would need to provide for LEED certified or equivalent certification green building prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. They would also need to abide by sustainable commitments, low-impact development activities, as stated earlier, water retention, stormwater retention on the site, 100% native lands, native planting, and et cetera. The next steps associated with the project will require, as I stated, Development Review Committee. This also will require site plan approval by City Council. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. And I'll ask you, everything is in concurrency? at
They
the
meet
present time?
concurrency. They have provided a traffic study that was reviewed by the transportation manager and approved. They have provided a utility study that was reviewed and approved by our Public Works. And they also have provided, as stated, they have the impact study that demonstrates what they'll be providing to the city for the development. And the streets that you know is already available to accommodate their in and out egress from the property. As stated, they are located right there on the corner of Northeast 131st and 10th Avenue. So they should be able to easily get out, but they are located within the R2 Single Family Residential Zone District.
Very good. Does the city still have an arborist?
We do.
We do. Is
And
she a part
Tish-
of this process when they review?
At DRC level, she is.
Is she aware that there are 2 standing oaks on that property that are absolutely massive and very beautiful? And,
Beautiful trees,
and,
She is aware. I received that email and I forwarded to her to provide her assessment.
And, okay, well, let's hear from the developer, and we'll probably address that a little bit further into our, after the presentation. If you could go ahead, whoever we have as their spokesperson, Mr. Geller, are you
Yes.
representing them?
Yes,
We'll take your name and address, sir.
yes, sir.
As always, it's a
Good
pleasure to have
evening.
you
Thank you.
come to our
Good
meetings.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, staff, Mr. Cook. I'm Joseph S. Geller of Greenspoon Martyr LLP. Our firm is representing the applicant, Blue Development LLC. My address is 200 East Broward Boulevard, Suite 1800, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33301. And we're very pleased to be in front of you tonight. We have what we think is a very nice little project. It's not a huge thing. It's not great in size, as you've heard. In the NRO, which is still in force, and which we've applied under and entitled to proceed under, we could build on this slightly in excess of half an acre. We could be asking for up to 50 units and something 90 feet tall. But we think that would be out of character, and that's not at all what we're asking. This is a nice little development. You'll hear just in a moment from the architect, Albert Rodriguez, who's certainly much more eloquent in describing his building than I am. This is 2 stories tall, 20 feet, and it's a grand total of 10 units. 2 little buildings, 5 townhomes each. They have each a single-family garage for each unit, and then there's enough extra parking that we meet the code requirements. We're literally asking for next to nothing. And no variances, no accommodations, no anything, with one very small exception. Since by right we would only get 3 units, we are asking for the huge sum of 7 floating bonus units. 7, not 70, not 17, just 7. And this is a nice little development, and we think it's in keeping with the size and the scale and the massing and everything for this neighborhood. It's right close to, as you know, it's very close to the transit corridor. And we think it's an attractive project, and we think it's something that makes sense for this community. And hopefully, I would hope the neighbors feel that way as well. But we ask your consideration in allowing this and granting the request for this little tiny townhome development, a grand total, 2 buildings, 5 townhomes in each, total of 2 stories tall, total of 10 units, and as I said, a grand total of 7 floating bonus units. With your permission, in the interest of time, I'm not going to reiterate all the information that Mr. Cook just gave you. We agree with what he said. We are entitled, as I said, to the benefits of the neighborhood redevelopment overlay because it still exists, but we're way on the bottom end of what it permits, but we do want those 7 floating bonus units. So as opposed, we're happy to answer questions, but rather than my reiterating how many jobs and what the pretty good economic impact in terms of ad valorem taxation, I believe Mr. Cook said like $300,000 a year, I'd like to turn it over for a brief presentation to Mr. Rodriguez from De Lima Architects to make a brief presentation to you. As I said, we'd be happy to answer any questions when we're done, but less is more. So we're going to try and save your time, but anything you want to hear more about, we're happy to tell you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr.
Geller.
Rodriguez.
Good evening, sir. Once you get settled in, we'll take your name and address for the record.
Yes, hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak before you. My name is Albert Rodriguez of De Lima Studio Architects. We're in Coral Gables. The exact address is 123 Madera Avenue, Suite 205. We have been working on this project for a while. When we first submitted the first design, we have been working very closely from the beginning with staff, and they made a series of recommendations that, quite frankly, have been very positive, and we're very happy with how the design came out. Excuse me. But as Mr. Geller was saying, it's a small unit, it's a small development, 2 separate buildings, 5 units each. Each dwelling unit is 2 stories, and they face each other, and the recommendations that were given by staff was to try to make it a little more residential. The first couple of designs weren't as such, so we took to heart what they recommended, and we worked with them, and in the final page of the presentation, you will see that there's an inspiration image that has served as the guide for for our design for this project. That's basically we can go through it. There's just a rendering, other views of the project, what they're going to look like. Oops, excuse me. That's the site plan. We've already dealt with staff, and we've gotten the Miami-Dade Fire Department approval. We've also already spoken with Waste Pro for the issue of waste removal, and we have those approvals. This is just a detail of the front entry on the main driveway, the entrance to the building. One of the issues that was raised was the proximity of fire hydrants, and this was the sheet that we show where the fire hydrants are, the distances. And these are the floor plans of each of the units. The first floor has the 1-car garage that has already been described, and then you have the living spaces on the ground floor, kitchen, living, with a small powder room. And then on the second floor, shown to the right, you have the bedrooms and the bathrooms. This is a roof plan that shows how we're going to be handling stormwater as far as the roof goes, and then we're going to have a civil engineer design because we know it has to be obviously caught on site. More elevations. These are orthographic views. These are building sections showing how we are proposing to build the structures. And then this is the final page that shows some of the materials that we're proposing. And at the bottom, you see the inspiration image that I described at the beginning of my presentation. Thank you so much.
And finally, in closing, again, we'll be happy to answer any questions. Let me just point out that we're here tonight asking for those 7 floating units, but the main thing is approval of a conditional use permit. So let me point out, as Mr. Cook did, this is not the last time that the city is going to see this. If you approve the conditional use permit, as we hope you will, so that we can move forward, we're still going to be required to get site plan approval from the city before we can even get a building permit. So we're moving forward. We hope that you will approve the conditional use permit and the 7 floating units. But as I said, we will then have to go with a detailed plan to the DRC and ultimately back to the city council to get approval of a site plan that's more detailed and in compliance with all of these numerous conditions of the conditional use permit. And once that is accomplished, as hopefully it would be, then the project can move forward to a building permit. With that said, we ask for your approval. We think it's a nice, modest product. We hope that you'll, after the, if there are any questions at this time before you open it to public hearing, we're happy to answer them now. Or if you want to hear from the public and then ask our questions, that's also fine with us. So whatever your pleasure is, Mr. Chair.
I think the commission might have a couple questions for the architecture.
Great.
Architect. I brought up a question or an inquiry with regards to what's on that property now. I've driven by there numerous occasions. That whole area is beautifully treed in there, and you have absolutely 2 gorgeous standing oaks in there. Those are going to disappear.
Well, let me
Under your-
try to answer that subject to the architect. We think there may be 3
Well,
actually, but of the
From
3, we
drawings I'm
believe
looking at,
we believe 2 will be retained, and 1 they're going to try. But
well,
2,
no,
my
there's no
understanding is.
trying. I think we need to get some clarity on this
I'll
from the
defer to
city,
the architect.
because
Yes, sir.
the way it stands, if I'm not correct, there's a lot involved with any kind of a tree that size and that large that the arborist for the city has to say with regards to removing that.
That's right, we
that
understand
tree.
that. And we,
And
I'm sorry.
if, you know, I know it's hard for us to say it can be a deal breaker or not. You know, I'm not looking for that kind of answer, but I'm trying to have you understand that this is a problem,
Yes, sir.
and that I think it needs to be addressed. And some of the ways that it could be addressed is downsizing your building footprint and the size of the area that you are planning for parking, and allowing more green space on that property. Because from what we can see from the diagram, that's basically a lot of parking spacing and a building on just, you know, half an acre is not a lot. You know, looking at that property there now, after driving by there and seeing it in person, it's not translated in the diagrams that we've seen. So, and obviously staff had asked you to make a modification, and I can understand that you came back, you did your best to try to modify it. But from my point of view, I think you have a problem of it not being what it should be on that size property. I completely understand the overlay. We've been educated on that enough time, and we know the legalities involved in that. But all we can do is we hope that the developers would understand what it means to the neighbors, what it means to the community, to have it concurrent with the way that the neighborhood looks now. And that's part of the conditions that, if you'll read it in some of the deciding factors, Staff said it was fine and it fit in with the community. Myself, I don't think so. So that's a problem that we have to try to see if we can come to a resolution on. Because I am in disagreement with staff and what they think is how that would adapt to the community with that design that you have there. I'm going to open up the public hearing because I think there's some other, there's neighbors. By the way, did you have any meetings with the people in the neighborhood regarding
No.
this project?
No, we did not.
You had no input from the community, okay?
No,
so
we just
let's-
went through the city.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now, again, we recognize that everything is with the guidelines
Yes.
of what the overlay district has. We can't dispute that,
Understood.
and we know that, and we're not, we're not looking at that. We're looking at the fact that there's some problems with that design and what you want to put on that property, and let's hear from the citizens to see
Okay.
how they feel, and maybe you can get a better idea. All right?
Sure, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to address this, please come forward. I'll take name and address when you come up. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, good evening,
Now,
Janeth.
everybody gets 2 minutes, by the way. I'm sorry.
Hi, good evening, Janeth Baez, 925
I'm sorry.
North.
Go ahead.
Yeah, why don't we get everybody lined
Yes.
up?
Yeah.
Since there's quite a few people who appear they wish to speak on this item, there are 2 podiums, so I would ask you, someone else please be ready to
Yeah,
go there.
just-
Don't wait until she's done
Yeah,
and
don't
then
wait
to,
till she's
thank you,
done.
just so we can
That
keep
way
it
we can
moving.
move it along quicker and everybody gets a chance to
Yes.
speak, okay?
Thank you, I'm
Thank
so
you.
sorry, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Janeth Baez, 925 Northeast 129th Street. First and foremost, Commissioners, I apologize for my attire. I was in the middle of running. My neighborhood DJ Phil reminded me of today's sighting, so I apologize for my attire. I would never come before a commission in this attire, also for the toddler. Okay. I have been a homeowner in my home since 2018. We have tried our best, my husband and I, to beautify it as much as possible. However, I am in great disagreement with regards to this development. As one of many persons in this neighborhood with a toddler, this is an area that we find that there is already a great deal of traffic. There is already a great deal of traffic. This would only increase that substantially. I am very familiar with this lot. We actually currently walk our dog by it, and there's continuously the tenants that are currently in there, not in compliance with the requirement that you have to have your dog on a leash. So I am concerned. I know that's something minute, but for someone that has a toddler and a dog that's a pit bull, you can see where my fears lie. Anywho, I do think that while I love the idea of North Miami redeveloping, there are a lot of questions. Is this going to be a rental community or an owner community? Because if you look at the immediately 2 blocks within a 360 radius of that location, there's a building going up on, 9th and 130th that unfortunately has now resulted in 2 of those homeowners selling their homes. Because the idea being, now I bought this home in X year, now there's people that can see my unit. While this makes the argument that their property can be bigger, it also makes the argument that this is allowing for homeowners who own their home for a substantial amount of time to move out of this neighborhood. I think there is a happy medium here. It does not need to be an additional 7 units, possibly a total of 5. The 3 that are already permitted plus an additional 2, I could see that lot being substantial for that. But for 10, that is a great deal. And it would cause a lot of traffic. And to sum it up, I am in disagreement. However, I do think there is a happy medium to be had here. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
Good evening. Name and
Good
address,
evening,
please.
Tatiana Perez, 1035 Northeast 133rd Street, North Miami. I'm a single-family homeowner, and we've been in our home for about 15 years. That's not nearly as long as some of our neighbors. In that time, we've enjoyed a fairly quiet and peaceful community. That's what we bought because that's what we want. We bought into the American dream, home ownership. The rental development doesn't believe in that. It will change the fabric of our community and will have rippling effects. There's already another property being proposed like this one just 2 blocks away. We are very fortunate to not only have nice neighbors, but also be next to the Biscayne Park Bird Sanctuary. When this developer cuts down those multi-century old trees, we will lose a lot of shade, we will lose a lot of native and protected wildlife. The NRO was abolished because it didn't work. The state chose the Live Local Act instead, which is another conversation altogether. Just because this application squeezed through the process doesn't mean it needs to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlewoman, gentlemen, my name is Philip Cookris. Good evening. I live at 985 Northeast 129th Street, 5 homes away from my home. They put up that 60-unit building. Now, 5 homes away from my home, they want to do this development. They're going to kill those beautiful trees, and they're going to put up a eyesore. Don't let them do it, please. We love our neighborhood. Seriously, I've been there 65 years in the same home. It's not right to keep overdeveloping North Miami, and it's not a commercial area. We need to keep it residential. Thank you very much. Oh, and Jeanette was actually out for a walk when I told her when I was jumping in my car to come here, because I just got finished working, and she really has fixed up her house, you know, and we don't need more. There's 60 units, 5 homes away from me. 2 homes away from her. And she's not kidding you. Those people on the corner, they had a swimming pool with 2 young girls. They sold their home because they don't want the kids swimming in a swimming pool with who knows what is going to be in those buildings. Gentlemen, seriously, Mr. Ernst, thank you for looking at that property. Those trees were small when I was a little kid. They're beautiful. Thank you for taking the time to look at it. And Kenny, we really can't do this. Kevin, we can't do this. You other guys, I don't know, but we can't do this to my neighborhood, okay? We can't do this. Please, don't do it.
Thank you,
Don't let
sir.
them do it. Sure, Carol Keys did this to us. And she doesn't have to live here. She's off in, you know, the east side. She doesn't have to live in that neighborhood.
All right, thank you.
We do. All right.
Thanks.
Gentlemen, and sir, thank you for looking at the property.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Russell. I live at 1090 Northeast 132nd Street. Just wanted to say, you know, I looked at the display. It shows an overhead of a property, but actually it's a home right now. It's a beautiful home with a brick chimney. Not too many of those in my neighborhood that I can actually see. Right as you drive by, it's a corner lot, so you can see. I think it's pretty. This is the first time we're seeing anything of any kind of the diagram. I don't know, and I see it, and I think it's ugly. What I'm looking at, what they showed us tonight, I believe that's ugly. The houses. Let's see what I was going to say. Also currently, it's a home that is being rented, and the Movado estimate of its rent right now, I didn't ask the tenants, is upwards of $3,600. So what's wrong with the house that's there? It's $3,600 a month rent, and they're gonna knock it down to put those in. As far as surface parking, I think with that storm we just had, I think all the data that they've worked off of is going to be wrong. And the trees, you know, don't forget, we are a Tree City, USA city. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, sir. Name and address.
Sean
For the record.
Friedel, 1035 Northeast 133rd Street. My neighbors showed up tonight. Thank you all for being here. This property is not more important than all of our properties put together. I came tonight to save the American dream, one of home ownership. This rental property is a business, and they are not adding to the potential of home ownership, rather they are removing from it. I'd like to speak a little bit about the Live Local Act. This statewide act supersedes this commission's zoning decisions in certain cases. This property does not fall under the act, as it is a single-family property. but a careful read of the Live Local Act shows multiple references to contiguous residential properties. Who knows how the Live Local Act will change in the future? There's already been multiple amendments. This property is in the heart of single-family zoning. Approving this property will send a message to every single-family homeowner in the city of North Miami that their neighbor's property is up for grabs. That is a lot of your constituents. I don't want 20 new toilets next door to me. We already have a problem with our sewers, and that's before the rain comes. I don't want those people parking in front of my house. We already have parking problems on my street. If I wanted to live in New York City, I'd be there already. I don't want to trade the shade for a concrete monolith. They used to call this Tree City, USA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good
Name and
evening.
address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Malcolm Wilson of 1050 Northeast 131st. And I wanted to speak against this development. It's my first time seeing the proposed plans and everything. But I have a problem with this development because it's distasteful for one thing. The plans are ugly in my opinion. But also it affects the quality of life of everyone in that vicinity, and especially for who they plan to put in those homes, because it doesn't offer any space to live outside. It doesn't offer any space to play. It doesn't offer any green space. From what I saw in the plans, it's minimizing all of the area that will allow for families to enjoy their space. And I think that in the city of North Miami, what I love about it so much is that there is trees everywhere. There are fruit trees everywhere in the swales, and there's space for people to enjoy life in North Miami. And I think these type of developments diminish that quality of life that is already here and that we want to support. So I disagree with this development. I disagree with the applicants trying to minimize the impact of what this development would cause, because there is a big impact, and the impact would cause for the neighbors an impact that they now have an eyesore, but also it would cause an impact for anyone that moves into those buildings.
Thank you so much.
My name is Christina Bosa. Oh, wow. Okay. So
You
I
have to
am
get
a
to
homeowner
make-
at 1050
yeah.
Northeast 131st Street. This is important.
I know, but.
I wanted to speak to you were speaking about the trees.
Yeah,
And I'm a
okay.
professional and certified agroecologist. What am I
Identify yourself again, because we.
My name is Christina Bosa. I'm a homeowner at 1050 Northeast 131st Street.
Thank you.
I didn't expect this string to
Sorry.
be this long. I'm even like, wow. Okay, so I'm a professional and certified agroecologist. I work in forestry, and I happen to live a half a block away from this property. I pass it every day. 1942 home with 3 gigantic oak trees, and I wanted to speak to just how massive they are. So this is the circumference of 2 of them. It's 15 feet. And so from that circumference, we're able to find the age of these trees. By dividing the circumference by pi, we're able to get a diameter, which we then use a growth factor of 4. This is what leading universities use. And we're able to get, does anyone guess the age of these trees? 200?
Well, let's not. involve the public.
231. 231 years old. So if you're gonna, like,
All right,
they're really,
that's
yeah.
us, not the audience.
So
Thank
what's
you.
that? I know. I'm just
All
like,
right.
wow. Sorry, I'm
okay.
used to public
Continue.
speaking. Yeah, so I wanted to speak to that. You know, it's not a vacant lot. These trees have been occupying it, making their home. There's a hawk nest in one of these trees. I've seen foxes on this property as well. The goal of the county for 2030 is to increase the tree canopy significantly. We're not going to be doing that by planting new sapling trees and removing 231-year-old trees. I also wanted to point out that I've been in this home, 1942 home. It's beautiful. It does not need to be demolished. There are people living in it now. I talked to a lot of neighbors who expressed the same thing. Like one neighbor who lives right behind, they said, yeah, we tried to fight this other development and we're leaving. We just sold. We're out on Friday. And so, yeah, a lot of homeowners have left. Anyway, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address this item? Please come forward. Two of you can come up. One could take one podium or the other.
Hello, my name is Austin Stape. I live at 1024 Northwest 37th Street, which I know is a little bit southwest of you guys, but I'm here to support my friends in the North Miami community in their opposition to this. I think that development is inevitable, but development in the interest of people is not. And it's up to bodies like this to defend the economic and ecological and social sustainability of these communities. So I've seen you guys struggling to do that through this meeting, and I hope that you'll continue to do that for these people. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Name and address, please.
My name is Elise Fernandez. I'm a resident at 1050 Northeast 131st Street. I'm opposed to the proposed project at 13030 Northeast 10th Avenue. As we all know, North Miami experienced record flooding a couple weeks ago, incurring millions in damages. New structures are built 3 to 4 feet above existing structures, increasing runoff and flooding for neighboring homes. North Miami's drainage, sewer, and water plant infrastructures need to be improved before any increase in density takes place. Additionally, this property is currently planted with many old-growth trees that help to mitigate flooding. These trees should not be removed. I propose instead leaving the property as is, remaining similar to all the other homes on the block and allowing space to preserve the valuable mature trees on this property. My second reason to stop this project is property values. Research shows that the presence of apartments and townhomes near single-family homes can negatively impact property values. Our neighbors' hard-earned investments in their homes could be at risk if this development proceeds. Again, I propose instead to keep the property as is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ma'am.
Yes,
Name and address, please.
Yes, 1050 Northeast 132nd Street, Yukari Takakura. I just like to say that NRO is deleted to better protect the single-family homes. And this planning commission, in last year in March, they denied townhomes, 9 townhomes at 1047 Northeast 132nd Street, across street from my property, and you have denied 6-0. And this project is very similar, doesn't fit to the community, and it will a great negative impact to the neighborhood. So I'm opposing this townhouse project. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Schultz, 1040 Northeast 132nd Street. I oppose this. You can see all our neighbors feel the same way. This will really interrupt our happy life over here and destroy our property values. These little townhouses with one way in, one way out, parking underneath the house, which will turn into probably a heap of stuff, and they'll be parking all around the easement. This is a disaster for us. Everybody feels the same way. Please protect our single-family house. Thank you.
My name is Victoria Rose. I live on 1020 Northeast 130th Street. As a lifelong resident, stripping and monetizing the character and value of historic Irons Manor is detrimental. The inhabitants of these streets are local business owners that provide services for and within our community. One of the previous owners of this exact house included a librarian who could lead you to pages in a book that could inform you on the topics of historical preservation, native plants, probably tell you why Irons Manor is Irons Manor, not just North Miami. This multifamily complex is actually a multi-million-dollar development to house the people who put money in the hands of businessmen who have no regard for the architecture or historical preservation of architecture in our community. This isn't another empty lot. This isn't the burned projects. These are shade trees, bricks, and coral rock that for over a century formed a home, not just a house, a home. They can't pour concrete to kill the place we call home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please come forward. If there's more, please take position at one of the stands. Thank you.
Hello, Dana Foligno. I'm 950 Northeast 123rd Street, but my parents live on 1164 Northeast 131st Street, and I was born and raised on 1085 Northeast 131st Street, so I'm very familiar with this space. I am opposed of this project as someone who is welcoming twins soon and will be walking them to their grandparents' house from my house on 123rd. There's already a ton of traffic on that area whenever I walk to my parents' house. I grew up on this street playing with my neighbors. You know, it just totally takes away from the feel, the look, everything that I chose to purchase my home in North Miami because of everything that I loved about growing up on that street and growing up in that house. And this completely takes away from that. So I'm opposed to this project. Again, I think someone mentioned earlier there is a happy medium, but it should not come at the cost of the destruction of a historic home and the destruction of 231-year-old trees. So thank you.
Beautiful. Hello, my name is Gio Jarder. I live at 1085 Northeast 131st Street. As you know, I am a fond supporter of preservation. I had a lot like they did. Instead of tearing it down, I restored it. It is now a arts community center in the city of North Miami. I am usually here to support projects. As you know, you see my face. I love good design and I love the fact of progress in our city. But there's a fine line between that and destroying the neighborhood that you live in. One thing is the fact that you have big buildings on big thoroughways, but when you encroach a neighborhood and you start building concrete blocks half a block from where you live, it doesn't work. This particular project reminds me of any other city that has now lost its charm. There's no tree, it's all concrete. If you notice, it's to the very end of the sidewalk. There is going to be no salvage of any tree on that property. And I have to say, last but not least, that I actually bought the house that this young lady lived in and was born because I am the godfather of that child and I believed in this town. I've been here 55 years too, and I believe in keeping our city and our neighborhood alive. And the fact is, someone comes here, it's a business. It's not even for remodeling their home. It's a business to make money and then leave, sell, and go. I oppose this project. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to address this item, please come forward. If not, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'll open the floor up for rebuttal from the petitioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Geller, you're handling the rebuttal?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, in part. Yes, sir.
Again, before you start now, bear in mind that we know all the legalities involved with overlay districts and everything else, and if you could perhaps give us a different perspective than what we already have discussed with regards to what is allowed and the laws and everything else.
Yes, sir. And my comment on that is just quite brief. For the reaction that we're getting, I just wonder what would have been said had this applicant actually tried to do 90 feet and 50 units. It's as if we were proposing that instead of this very small development that we are proposing. I just do find that a bit remarkable. I do want to comment some of the statements that were made. I don't question anybody's intention. I don't question anybody's belief. I don't do that. But one of the specific conditions, for instance, they were talking about, oh, this is going to do something with flooding. But there's a specific condition here that's imposed that stormwater must be retained on the property, that this is probably going to contribute less to any neighborhood flooding than the existing properties do, because it's designed specifically to retain that water. And I do want to call up specifically also the architect. I believe the information that you're being given about the trees is not correct. I understand your concern. My understanding, and I'll let the architect go into the details. Keep in mind, a landscape architect was hired. The landscape architect has designed this site for it to be a beautiful site. The city had certain demands, every one of which was complied with. We met what was asked, and I do want, though, specifically about the trees, because I actually think there may be 3, but and I understand 2 were being said, but let me defer to Mr. Rodriguez, because that was the first thing the chair went to, and I want to be sure we have accurate information in front of you, and I believe some of what's been said is not.
2 of the trees, we have been working with the landscape architect, and also we've spoken with different arborists, because the trees are a concern. I mean, there's just no way that we can look at that property and not notice how beautiful the trees are. So we've been speaking with people, experts in the area. Again, we have a landscape architect as part of the team, and we have been speaking with arborists. And one of the trees, there are 3 large trees on the site. One of them, we have not been giving any guarantees that the tree, if we are to relocate it somewhere, that it would be saved, shall we say. The other 2 trees, we're trying to see how we can put them on the site, keep them on the site, because maybe the plans are not being read correctly, but there is green space available, around the perimeter facing Northeast 10th Avenue. There is, before the buildings begin, that's, obviously you have the driveway in the middle, but you have flanking the driveway, you have green areas. And we're trying to see how we can perhaps, fit one of the trees that have to be trimmed. I'm sorry, 2 of the trees in those areas. We're working with the landscape architect, and again, we just have to get, make sure this can happen also with the input of a certified arborist.
To Mr. Cook, our arborist would have the final say on any kind of recommendation that an outside arborist would have with the developer. Is that correct, sir?
She will. And she'll do a thorough review of the landscape and any mitigation they would do during the DRC review. She has made some preliminary comments about it as it relates to if they were getting rid of the trees, what they would need to do to mitigate, and what the county would require, and things to that effect. But she has made no definitive statement on it, because they haven't submitted for a development review committee yet with the full-throated landscape plan and whatever removals they will be taking place on this site as well, and how they would mitigate any tree removal.
Okay.
It is my understanding, Mr. Chair, that when a tree is moved, there's typically, it's not something that can be guaranteed, because you don't know, but we are willing, we've indicated that as to all 3, and I know you've referenced 2, as to all 3, we're prepared to take action. We're reasonably confident, from what we've been told, that 2 of those trees can be preserved on site, and we're willing to try on the 3rd one as well. So it has to go back to DRC. It has to go back before that committee, and then again a second time to the city council, and that's something that your staff is going to insist on, and that we are not objecting to. We believe that can be done. I understand why people say, well, where that tree is, if the exact location of that tree renders the site essentially unusable. I mean, the notion, by the way, that there's a 1942 home on the site and that has to be preserved, I'm sensitive to preservation, but That doesn't mean that every single home can never be changed, removed. It's not a designated site. It's not something that's been shown to have any particular historical significance. There's a process for that. So I understand, I have to comment also. I understand there's a larger development up the block, and people are unhappy about that one. That is not this project. This project is 2 stories high. It's 10 individual townhomes. The statement that this townhome construction is going to lower property values is unsupported. People may feel that way. They may be suspicious of that, but no evidence has been brought before you that that's the case. And in fact, it may well be quite the opposite, because having these more commercially viable properties may in fact raise property values in the neighborhood. This isn't still Leave It to Beaver. It is not still the 50s when these homes were built. There's at least one gentleman who's been in them that long. I understand how he feels, but this is a block and a half off West Dixie Highway. It's not being dropped right in the middle of this large neighborhood. It's a block and a half off West Dixie Highway, which is increasingly becoming more commercial. This is a very modest, small-scale development that's literally a fifth of what they could be asking for, 20% of what they could be asking for, and it still would have to go through DRC and still have to go through site plan approval, with the stipulation that the arborist is going to look at these trees, and my client has indicated, and will say on the record, that we think from what we've heard and what you've heard also from your staff, Mr. Cook, we believe at least 2 of those 3 can probably be saved, and we're willing to try on the 3rd one, and that's a concern. It is a concern. We understand that, but this is not an ugly concrete monstrosity.
Well,
it's a small.
Let's
It's
have,
excuse me. I didn't make fun of anybody else when they spoke. Please. Okay, I respect every single person who spoke here.
Thank you,
No
Mr.
dispute
Mr.
with
Geller,
anybody.
I'll
But,
deal with that. Thank you.
Sir, I
Please-
just say to
please,
you, Mr. Chair and members,
Yeah.
that this is beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I don't consider this to be an ugly project. That's my eye. Other people can have different eyes of it. But it's a small project. It has green space around it. It has place where we think 2 or maybe all 3 of those trees can be relocated. And it's a very, very modest ask, not the hundreds of bonus units that people were in asking you tonight. 7. We ask you to approve it. Thank you very much. Again, if there are other
Mr. Hall.
questions in the course of your debate, we're happy to answer them.
Yes, Mr. Hill.
So if anyone on the board was interested, in the agenda package on page 148 is an inventory of the three oak trees plus other trees in relation to the proposed project. So there's actually a site plan that shows where the trees are located. They're numbered. 2 of them are
indicated by circles.
Yes, and 2 of them are
And where the
specifically on
circles are,
units. Yes.
I noted that there was driveways and buildings, and nowhere did
Well,
it show.
The oak trees are specifically in the buildings.
Yeah. All right, well,
Just thought you should.
let me go ahead and open up. I'll probably do a summation. I have some pretty strong feelings on this. I think you can pretty much read my body language. But let's start with Mr. Seifried down on the end, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Get your input on this item.
All right. I think it's overdevelopment on the site plan. It reminds me of Brickell, where you just pave over every square inch of land that you possibly can. This will not preserve or enhance the single-family neighborhoods. The parking is probably meets code, but it's inadequate. I don't know of any house that has 1.6 cars. Both parents have to work, like it or lump it. That's going to require 2 cars. All this is going to do is push parking into the surrounding single-family neighborhood. I just don't see this as a win-win for anybody. The trees become an invaluable asset to this city. And this project is not realistically, once it goes through DRC and arborists go back and forth and horse trading the way it is, there's no saving the trees. Not with the site plan as proposed. I just can't recommend this architecturally. I don't find it attractive. I find it to be excessively burdensome to the neighborhood. I don't find anything to recommend this project. I realize everybody has a different take on things, but I'm opposed to this as it's presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seifert. Dr. Besson?
May I address the architect for a moment? A couple of questions. What is the size of the garages?
I believe they're at like 10 by 18. They're not garages, they're carports because they're open.
They are open?
Yeah.
Okay. If I was to move into one of these units, where would I put a barbecue and a couple of lounge chairs?
Along, there is in the back facing, excuse me, there is facing northeast 131st Street, and also on the south end of each building, there's a small yard with a wall around it. So there is an area back there that you could do what you are suggesting for each unit.
Right.
Is there access from the rear? Because the drawings didn't indicate that there's any kind of access unless those bottom portions are sliding glass doors.
Yeah, they look
Yes,
like
those
sliding glass doors.
Sliding glass doors.
Yeah, they're going to open up and then they'll have a little yard.
What do they open
each
up
unit.
onto? They open up onto, because it looked like, I wasn't able to ascertain the clear
Okay.
picture, three-dimensional picture. Do they open up onto a sidewalk?
No, they open up to where the sliding glass doors
Yes,
are.
sir.
You open up and there's a small concrete slab,
Mhm.
and then you have,
Very small.
mention myself, but it's probably around 10 feet, 10 to 12 feet of grass area.
Okay.
And then you have the sidewalk. You have grass area, you have a low wall, or a perimeter wall, CMU perimeter wall, and then you have the sidewalk on northeast 131st Street. On the south end, where you have a adjacent lot, you have the same condition, except there's no sidewalk. You have the neighboring property.
Okay.
I just want to point out to staff also that some of the drawings do not really depict what the architect is saying. So I don't know how we ended up showing one of the pictures showing the sliding glass door opening up right to the sidewalk and about 2 feet of grass between that and the sidewalk. And that's on one of the drawings that we received. Let me dig through my pictures. If anybody can try to find that for me, I got.
Okay.
You still have your
Maybe
slides
that
in the
one.
presentation that shows the back side of that?
You mean this, perhaps this one?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This shows the building, but the location itself, it is in fact pushed back a little more, so that you do have the grass area that I described, and there's a property wall, I believe it's 4 foot tall, running along the sidewalk.
That's a hard, I can appreciate your answer, but, you know, what we were doing was kind of misleading, and that's not appreciated. But go ahead, Mr. Besson.
Where was the original idea for the design of the property? Where did it come from?
We were approached by owner's rep, the client, my client, to do 10 units on this property. And we tried different options. We were always aware of the trees. That's something that was always forefront. We discussed, what would make it feasible for them, and this is what we came up with in order to make it work. Because we tried different, trying to do pods, perhaps around the trees and everything, but it just didn't work.
I'm saying the actual architecture of the building.
Well, like I said at the beginning, the original architecture was actually, let's just say, more institutional. And then when we presented it to staff, they made recommendations, which, we massaged it back and forth, and then this is what the product that came from that effort.
Yeah. Last question. Did you have you had no meetings with the neighbors, the
No, sir.
adjacent neighbors and so on?
No,
Was there
sir.
a reason there was no contact between the development ideas and the neighbors who will have to look at this project?
There were no meetings with the owners, and I'm afraid I can't answer that question. I don't know why
Okay.
that didn't happen.
All right, well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Ms. Blamur?
Good evening, everyone. So I'm a little disappointed with the project, not necessarily because of the bonus units that you're requesting, the fact that it is rental property. I think that I would have been more willing to come to a happy medium, as one of the residents stated, if these were actually going to be homes for single-family homeownership. I mean, I think at this point, if you've done your homework on what's going on in the city of North Miami, there's a huge lack of inventory from homeownership and a surplus of inventory coming in for rental properties. And the residents that currently invest, live, work, and play here are not happy about that. And so to bring a project like this, to ask for bonus units, and to, not even consider the 3 trees that are there, I think it's a bit of a faux pas on your part. So I said all of this to say, who is the owner of Blue Development? Hi, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Thank you for coming. So can I have your name and address,
Yeah,
please?
my name is Jamie Akbas. I'm the owner rep for the Blue Development.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, listen.
Yes.
I don't want to come down on you or, make you feel bad about the project. I just want you to understand where we are as a city. We have a huge amount of development that is coming that unfortunately is not giving those who currently live here a feel for or desire to remain here.
Okay.
Okay, you've heard it from several residents that people are selling their homes because they feel as if they're not being heard, and the development that are coming in does not reflect the community that they chose to invest in. And I'm sure you live somewhere here in Miami-Dade County in a beautiful home. I just would like for you to take a moment and imagine if where you live, where you're raising your family, your children, your wife and kids, and someone decided, hey, I'm just going to plop 10 townhomes down the block and bring in renters and create an opportunity for people to come and go when that is not necessarily what you invested in. So while we would love to entertain the opportunity of you possibly investing in here, it has to make sense for those that are already here.
Understand. We never stated that these are going to be rental. We do not know right now. It could be for sale.
Well, this would be the right time to make that decision.
Okay. I can make the decision after I talk to my.
You have some hard buyers here that you need to try to sell your product to. So,
No, actually, townhouse could be for sale. You know, it's not
Sure.
really. You know, if it was apartment, that I would agree that will be for rent.
Yeah.
But townhomes, it's actually it's a good product for sale. So.
well, let me ask
We
you
have to
something.
do, of course, market analysis. We haven't done because we don't even know that we're gonna, go through this entire process.
Right.
So we haven't really did the numbers for sales,
Yeah.
versus rents. So that decision hasn't made, and then we're getting judged that it's gonna be rental. We never said, and we never, design. If you look at the design, these are not designed for rental
So
buildings.
on the record,
On the record,
these are not for rent.
that's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying? We
What
need
I-
to be clear here.
What I'm saying, as of right now, we have not decided. We have to do
Okay.
market analysis and see the numbers, what is working out best for of course, the developer,
Okay.
and then we will make our decision. But as of right now, we have not made that decision.
Well,
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
At this time,
Mm-hmm.
I think that, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
you should go back. You should make a decision on what you want it to be based on your numbers and then come back. Because if we were to vote tonight, as you have presented it, I would vote against it. Mr. Chair?
Thank you. And Naomi, now that we have the architect here, we have the owner, has there been any ideas kicked around that you could build smaller townhouse units that would be condo or for sale, that would fit on that property?
Yes, initially we tried, again, when we were approached, we had to provide a certain number of units. And we tried different, when I mentioned before, pods,
Well,
meaning,
the owner's here, obviously, he's the one that.
He's the
would make-
owner's rep, just to be clear.
Oh, he's the
Right,
owner's
not
rep.
not the owner, the representative of
Sorry,
the owner.
my apologies. I understand.
anyway, the
Well,
issue is that, yes, we did try different options and they just weren't working.
Because right now, you can see that this commission's unhappy with the fact that
Well,
Yeah,
there's going to be
I
more,
noticed.
if there was some way that the developer could come back to us to have a downsized project that would adapt to that property and not so much have the project adapt to the land. And I think that's what we're looking at.
Well,
We
Mr.
would- We
Chair,
would want the project to adapt to that land, including those trees, so we could get that, that would become a no issue in developing that.
to be clear on that point, having spoken to the owner's rep, having talked to the architect, having talked to your staff, we are amenable, again, with the understanding, let me be clear, I'm not
Mhm.
trying to mislead. When you move a tree,
Yeah.
there's not a guarantee that the tree will survive when you move it.
Right.
But with that
I understand that.
understanding, we are willing to accept as a condition that the developers of the property make all reasonable efforts to preserve a minimum of 2 of those 3 trees and to make what efforts can also be made in conjunction with the city's arborist to preserve the 3rd tree as well. I mean, that is their plan, that is what they plan to do, and I just want to be clear. I
And
understand that
we
doesn't answer
appreciate
every
that.
concern, but
We-
we are
we-
willing to
yeah.
accept
We-
that
yeah.
as a condition on the record,
We
Mr.
we
Chair.
understand that,
Okay.
but I think you have more than just the trees that are
understand that
issues
too,
with
sir.
that.
Yes, sir.
And the overall plan is not being accepted by the residents, and I think there's a number of us on this panel who don't find it a very eye-pleasing design. And I haven't even gotten through half the panel here to have them have their say.
Yes, sir.
So I'll stop here and let, Ms. Bonor, did you have anything else you wanted to add before I move on to?
So the other thing that I would add is, if and when you make the decision to make it, if and when you make the decision to have it be a home ownership, meaning ability to purchase, I think the next step is that you should have community meetings. Because the fact that you have not had one community meeting and you want to invest here is very telling. Because if you're not considering those that actually already live here, to even just ask them what they think, or ask them what they would like, or even ask them what they would want to consider, is a bit disheartening. Because I'm assuming this is not your first development. So you should know that when you're coming into a city and you want to develop, the first stop is those that live here. And so after you would make that decision, I would kindly suggest that you put together a community meeting and you find from Mr. Cook what is the radius that the city suggests you should cover, and make sure that every single person within that radius is contacted and comes to these meetings, and just, have a round table, and hopefully, by God's grace, as the resident stated, you'll find that happy medium. Thank you.
Mr. Clark? Mr. Clark, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think my fellow commissioner summed it up pretty well. I'm actually amazed that there were no community outreach. I'm pretty sure staff advised or recommended it. They usually do, but we're here. It also blows my mind that the owner's rep is saying that they don't know what they're doing with the product, but yet they purchased the land and have moved in the process, but they don't know what they're doing with it. So at this point, I back my fellow commissioners. I would recommend staying a decision. But again, it's up to the owner's rep and their representative to decide if they want to continue with this process.
Mr. Each, finally, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have to agree with everybody and all the comments that were made. I think this, honestly, I'm pro-development, but I looked at this the other day and I went out and visited the site. I gotta tell you, I was quite upset. I used to drive that street, 131st Street, when I go to the old police station for many years. That's a beautiful site over there right now. But to put this on there, to me, is horrible. I like townhouses, and we can do a nice project over here, but this is bare bones. I didn't even see washer and dryers in the unit. I see one car to be able to park, not enclosed even. It's just bare bones. And now you're talking, basically, let's cut to the chase. You guys are going to want to rent this out. And I got a little problem here with the way this report was written, the staff report. The proposed use is compatible with the nature, condition, and development of adjacent uses, building structures, and will not adversely affect the... Of course it's going to affect the neighborhood. Remember, folks, you were here earlier when I said, I want a quality project. I live in this city. I want to see a project that I could be proud of. Honestly, I would be ashamed to live there. We're looking at that and have that in my neighborhood. And I don't mean to hurt your feelings, sir. You're an architect. You're following the instructions. But this is bare bones. It's just not compatible with the neighborhood. We have a project, what is that, by Griffin?
Yeah,
That
Griffin,
three-story
yeah.
town. It's beautiful. It's what is it, an apartment building?
Apartment, 3-story.
A 3-story, gorgeous, well-done apartment, quality, absolutely marvelous. I could see something like that in the neighborhood. I wouldn't mind if you went a couple of stories higher. I don't think the neighbors, you know what they're saying to you? Let me get right to the chase. We want a quality project, and we don't want you to bring something in here that's going to pull our property values down, and that's what this would do. And I have to disagree with staff on this. This proposed development is somewhat more intense than used. No, this project will have an adverse effect on that neighborhood. Build something with quality, something that people will be proud of. They're not going to be proud of this. I'm sorry. I looked at this the other day and I was horrified. Absolutely just horrified. And I sympathize with these people here. And I tell you, if you want to rock and roll with it right now, I'll say no to this project. You know, and the NRO, we did away with the NRO, did we not? And they
Yes,
got in under the
it's-
deadline
yeah.
on this?
There's, I've had
Mr.
discussions
Grandfather?
with staff on this, and Mr. Cook can back me up. It hasn't been, it's supposed to happen, we don't know when. And that's the problem, because it was done, it was being done away because of this kind of project creeping into the neighborhoods. But unfortunately, there were projects that were put in place that are legally bound to be presented because they put it in when the boundaries existed or were put in place. So they got in on that. Any new development coming in, anybody wanting to petition, as long as this overlay exists, can still get in. So until that goes away, which is, we did our best to try to get staff or the city to expedite moving this boundary and doing away with it. Yes, sir. Mr. Bell.
So I was not aware of the status of the NRO, and I asked Mr. Cook earlier. So we do have a date. What he wrote me was, on June 25th, the mayor and council adopted the 2045 comprehensive plan that executed the elimination of the NRO. The adopted comprehensive plan update has been transmitted to the state for final review for approval. The state allows itself a 30-day review period. After 31 days, the updated comprehensive plan is modified and the NRO is officially no longer available for development. But because they are in process, they have the right to proceed under it.
Right.
Right.
So we do have a date.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
they have the right to proceed.
You know, I'm sorry, are you telling me, are you finished?
No, Mr. Hill explained the same thing I was trying to say, that we understand the legalities involved in that, and that's why I addressed Mr. Geller to let him know that we know that too, but we also know that
You know, there are
that overlay district's going away. Yeah, look, I was a part of
Yep.
the comprehensive plan. Most of us were. I don't think as that we ever imagined that we would be faced with a situation like this, that residential overlay district would entail certain criteria that would allow a large development and overshadow the integrity of an R2 district. I take full blame for that because I understood when we adopted that it would not affect R2. Perhaps somewhere down the road when it went to the commission, they said, no, that's okay, we'll allow the higher buildings in the residential overlay district. And, you know, it happened. And I'm not happy that it did. But beside that point, as everybody's pointed out, this is not a very attractive looking project. One of the, you know, we disagree with staff that they thought that it would be conducive to the existing neighborhood and that it would have no adverse effect, and clearly it does. So, I mean, this what has upset me as much as it upset Mr. H. So,
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
yes, Mr.
I move the project be denied as presented.
Yes,
Second.
Second by Ms. Blumer. Quick,
Chair?
quick.
I
There's a motion on the
apologize
floor,
for
sir.
interrupting right in the middle of it, but I've just spoken with the owner's rep. We would ask if the board would consider simply deferring this to allow us to work on some of what we've heard tonight and to be able to meet with the residents, have some interaction with them, and take to heart everything we've heard tonight and see if we can't come back with something that's more to the liking of the board. So if the board would consider it, we would request that you consider deferring this to a later date, and that's, of course, up to you.
Mr. Held?
Chair.
Yes. Let me find out if we can have your, I know you made a motion's been made and seconded here already.
Oh, well, that does not bind you at all. You have complete discretion on withdrawing that and
You can
starting
withdraw.
with a new motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the litigant, the applicant always has the right to bring it back regardless. Therefore, my motion stands.
Okay. So the motion is still stands to deny the request, seconded by Ms. Lemur. I'm ready for a vote. Yes? No, we're discussing a vote on the motion, Mr. Cook.
I believe Mr. Cook wanted the Planning Commission to know that a motion to deny means that it goes to mayor and council for their
Correct.
consideration. It just goes with your recommendation of denial. It doesn't stop the project. So he just wanted you to be aware of that before you
Right.
took your final vote.
It would still be up to the,
Yes, we understand that, but we are unanimous, I think, in this, and we need to vote and send a clear message.
okay.
Well, so
They
what I
can-
would like for us to consider is that if we do not give them the opportunity to go back and fix some things, and then they go to council, and then council approves it, we have, in a sense, failed the people. So I think that it behooves us to reconsider the fact that they're willing to reconsider all that we brought to the table, give them the opportunity to come back to the board, present a new proposal so that at least the people can feel that they have been included, they were a part of the process, and that this just goes over to council, and then they do whatever they want to do.
And that will surely delay this project from moving forward and keep it from moving forward more than your denial would, frankly.
All right, I'll accept the amendment.
All right, so,
Motion for continuing?
well, no, Mr. Held, then Mr. Seifert would have to withdraw his motion, since we
Yeah,
haven't.
it's-
Yes, but then what do? We withdraw the motion and
Right, you're going to do a new motion.
We're going to do a new
It
motion
sounds
to
like you-
defer.
It sounds like if you accept the proposal that it's a motion to continue, then what I would do is ask Mr. Cook what kind of timing they need if they're going to submit a new proposal for a new hearing date, if you're going to do a date certain. Though you could require them to re-advertise if they're going to do something new and it affects the neighborhood.
Right.
If-
And I think,
Mr. Held, if we would, rather than, we accept the cost of re-advertising, that's a cost of doing business. And let me just say, as opposed to a specific time frame, in deference to residents, if we're going to meet with the residents, we want them to be available. It's the height of the summer, people may be on vacation. We want to be sure we do it right. If that's the direction we're going to go, we're willing, at this point, we'll come back to you when we think we have something that might persuade you and give residents who may be away over the summer the opportunity to have a meaningful interaction
well,
with us.
normally you meet with the residents before you meet with us, sir.
That's exactly right, sir.
Right.
We understand that, and, you know, like I said, we'll re-advertise, we'll take the cost of re-advertising, but we'll not come back until we
Mr.
think we
Cook,
can present
May I
something.
bring you into this conversation, sir?
Derek, is that okay?
Yeah, bring you into this conversation.
Yes,
that
sir.
That the petitioner is willing to revisit the plans, and he would need specific timetable to be able to bring it back. And so staff would need to prepare, you know, the advertising for it, and also a time when they're ready to bring it back to this commission for.
They're not asking for a date certain. They're saying they'll meet with the neighbors, replan it to some degree, and then come back and pay for re-advertising.
Exactly.
So there's no timetable.
There's no timetable. We will just work with them,
All right.
and when time come, They willing to pay for the advertisement and noticing, and we'll do it all over and put it on the docket.
With all deliberate speed so that every aspect is covered, please.
Yes, like
Okay.
next year.
All right.
Okay, I'll put a motion to
Okay,
continue.
All right.
So-
So Ms. Blumer is entertaining a motion. Ms. Blumer, you have the floor. Yes, sir.
There is one other thing you should know. That if you, and I think this is correct, if you recommend denial and the city council denies the application, they might lose their grandfather status under the NRO.
So if we continue it tonight, It-
They keep their status.
but if we don't continue it tonight, they will lose it.
No.
No, they would
depends
lose it
on what the
if-
city council does, and that could happen at any time. If they could go meet with neighbors, replan, you make a recommendation to city council, and then they deny it, then they lose their status. At any time that the city council denies the application, they would lose their status.
So what is the process that we can enact right now that does not bring them to the council, that allows them time to reconvene,
Right.
consider all that we have presented tonight, bring it to us, and then go to the council?
It's a motion to continue to a date not certain. They meet with neighbors, and they bring an application back, and they are responsible for re-advertising and renoticing.
So I would like to put a motion on the floor to continue with a date uncertain.
And all those conditions. They meet
And
with
all
neighbors.
those conditions that we previously stated are met.
Which includes.
I'll second the motion.
All right, there's a second, there's a motion to continue.
It's meet with neighbors and.
To meet with.
So the
re-advertise.
conditions are to meet with to schedule at least 2 community meetings with neighbors. So that's 1, 2. The third, to reconsider moving the project from what was considered a rental. I know you said that it was not, but what was considered a rental to a possibly sell of townhomes. Anything else?
We can't mandate that.
Do you wanna
We're
say-
not
No,
mandating
we're not
that, but
mandating-
we're proposing that that
Well,
would
we're
be the
sug-
best.
It comes in the form of a recommendation, correct?
We're
Right.
recommending.
We're
Do you want to say
recommending.
something about trees?
And we're also recommending that the,
Folks, please, we'll discuss this, please hold on
we're
to your
also
comments.
recommending that the proposed project that will ultimately come before us will include the 3 trees that currently are on the property.
Let me,
Well, we can't, yeah.
It's a
It's
recommendation.
It's all
They're
recommendation.
not
They will
obligated.
work on giving us the best that they possibly can. And at that point in time, the residents will come back and agree to accept their proposal or deny it.
I mean, if that's the case, then we might as well take in Mr. Each's recommendation for the design, amenities. I mean, if we're just throwing
yeah,
out
I mean,
recommendations-
we want to look at the design, the amenities, I mean, this is
We're
bare bones.
basically looking for a whole new design.
Yeah, I mean, this is bare bones.
Yeah.
Let me, can I-
You need to come
Okay,
back
so
with.
Mr.
yeah.
Each, what kind of amenities would you like to see on this project?
Well, we don't want to add a laundry list,
Yeah, we don't,
But-
you
but
know,
we're.
Washer and dryer, you mentioned that.
well,
Yeah, but, you know,
first
let's
of all,
not-
though these townhomes are very small. They're bare bones. Maybe they can go 3 stories. Build something of quality that you and I would like to live in. I wouldn't want to live in this. I don't think any of us here would want to live in it. And those people over there certainly want anybody to live in it. You know, a swimming pool, some greenery, something nice. That to me is, when I look at the staff report, and I just really irks the heck out of me when I'm reading this. How do you say that doesn't hurt the neighborhood? It
No,
does.
Yeah, I had the same reaction, so I know
just,
we don't have,
yeah.
but-
And can I add just one question, sir? Suppose we agree to this. How do we know they're not gonna come back and ask for 60 units in the place?
You don't, but it's within your discretion to recommend approval or denial on that application, so.
Okay, I said what I
All right.
said.
yeah,
think we
I
just
don't
gotta-
want to get too specific
no.
with items.
You guys know how we
The
feel. I'm
message,
sorry.
the message is pretty plain that I would like to get them to come back with another concept and another design. This isn't going to be accepted by this planning commission in the form that it is now. So, you know, we're
Motion
giving you
to
the
continue?
opportunity, we're not denying you, we're giving you the opportunity to come back with something better. That's plain and simple. So,
Okay.
all right,
Motion to continue?
Second.
seconded by Mr.
I just wanted to get a little clarification real quick. You said there were 3 conditions, so it was 2 meetings with the neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
reconsider,
Rental.
making them rentals to townhomes for sale, and the third one would be to make sure to incorporate the 3 trees.
And then the
Correct.
fourth is to
Those are four?
reevaluate, yeah, to reevaluate.
And we can
Design.
add,
And amenities.
yeah, add
Okay.
more amenities. There's gotta be washers and dryers, there's gotta be
Well,
guard space.
amenities.
garages, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Design.
I would say
Design.
reevaluate.
Reevaluate design.
Just reevaluate the design.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay, so, I
right,
think
we've
I
had the
I did the
second.
clarification, so I can go ahead and just start the vote.
It was,
It's, Blemire has, made the motion and Commissioner Seifried,
Seconded.
Seifried.
Seifried.
It's all right, I'll answer to either one.
All right, Chairman Ernst.
Yes on the continuation.
Okay. Commissioner Blemire,
Yes.
Commissioner Each,
Yes.
Commissioner Seifried,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
and Commissioner Besson.
Yes.
The motion passes
Right.
unanimously 6-0.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
Okay, I
wait,
think we
wait,
have,
wait.
let me check, before you do that,
Hold
I
There's
have
nothing
to make
else?
sure, you, sir, had, no, never mind.
No old business?
You know,
New business?
We have no committee reports, no old business.
No old business?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask you. a
No
question.
committee reports or old business, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay, any new business you need, Mr. Cook?
10:30.
No, sir.
All right. So therefore, I can go ahead and call for, did you have something? you
Yeah,
wanted
I just
before
wanted to ask you,
adjourn?
you know, we talk about the design review committee, and it's all city staff, but there's nobody from our board or a resident that's on there that has any input in there, is there? How does that work? I mean, it's all staff and you have an architect.
We have staff and consultants.
Okay. The thing is, you guys are the staff, we're the residents, we have no input into some of these buildings, and I think we should, and I think there should be a reward for, like that project on 140th Street, where comes out with a beautiful design that may be giving them an extra couple of stories. We should look at that and start to explore those, like they have down in the Gables. I believe in the Gables, if you come up with an exceptional design, you get extra units. And we should start looking at that. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in an army of occupation. I don't have an input into what's happening in my own city. And I'm not trying to be facetious,
No.
but I mean,
I just
Derek,
lost the
quite
other
frankly, when I
page.
looked at this project, I was upset.
I just lost.
So,
it.
if I may,
Find
through
it.
the chair, when staff was thinking about the impact, based on what could happen, and you're not doing single family, townhome is the least impacting development in relations to single family.
Yes, but that doesn't make this a good project.
No,
No,
we're
it
not
certainly
talking.
No,
We're saying.
You have to ask yourself this question: would you want to live in that type of a townhome? That's the question that staff has to ask themselves, because these poor people right here, they're pulling their hair out. We all are. Thank you. I'm sorry.
All right, motion to
shut up.
adjourn is on the floor.
Seconded.
Seconded,
Seconded.
adjourn.
I did.
Clark.
Sorry. Can you recycle that for me? I'm taking your banana clip, by the way.